Hello, everyone. Welcome to this interview that I'm conducting with a very, very good person. I don't know how to introduce things like this, but I'm keeping it anyway. Um, today I'm interviewing Scott Handcock of
Yeah.
of
Hello.
of whatever you would know him for, probably something Big Finish. Because you've done quite a bit of stuff like Gallifrey, Benny, Torchwood.
Yeah. Big Finish has been the main,
Yeah.
particularly over the last 7 years or so, um, since going freelance. Yeah, that's probably what most people would know me for.
Yeah. I mean, you've done other stuff as well, of
Yeah,
course.
I feel like I've done far too much, but it's nice to keep things varied,
Yeah.
keep your hand in different things. Yeah, it stops you just getting into too much of a rhythm and just defaulting. I think.
Yeah.
You don't get comfortable. I mean, I don't think anyone who's freelance ever gets comfortable. So
Mhm. Yeah.
it's nice when you have the option to shake it up.
Yeah. There's a reason the phrase "variety is the spice of life" is so true. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we've gone into big questions before.
These
I think
aren't
that's
even
just about the approach to yeah.
like I was thinking of having like an opening sort of thing, like mentioning, oh, I was trying to like somehow fit in the fact that season 14's recently come out because like I knew since that trailer and I saw that Vok robot who I wonder who that was. um
Yeah, God, I forgot about that.
yeah.
I'm also impatiently sat here drumming my fingers, waiting for my Blu-ray to arrive. Keep checking on Amazon, going, "Oh, come on, you must have dispatched it today." Um, but yeah,
Don't lose
it's
hope.
that Vogue robot thing was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, it all came about because I'm friends with Pete McTighe, who actually lives just around the corner from me in
Oh.
Cardiff, and
Yeah.
just I think we were out for dinner in Cardiff Bay, and he just went, "How tall are you?" And I went, "About 6 foot 6'1", and he went,
Yeah.
"Perfect."
Yeah.
And I went, "Why?" And yeah, he was just saying how he was doing another one of these announcement trailers and needed someone to dress up as a Vok robot, and he knew I knew Louise because of the Gallifrey stuff and everything
Yeah.
like that. So it was just a nice little thing to do. But everything you've ever heard about Doctor Who monster costumes being uncomfortable is absolutely true. It's. I think there was a point he asked me to, really hold my arms outstretched to go in and attack Louise, and you could only get them up to your elbows because the material, the
Ooh.
sort of the chest
Yeah.
piece was so stiff, you actually couldn't move in it. And the head, the mask, I think it was taken from one of the original molds, and that, I mean, it didn't properly clip onto the back of my head, but it was really nasty.
Yeah.
But a fun thing to do.
I mean, the end result turned out great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a fabulous design. It's sort of
Yeah.
you do wonder why they've not been brought back
Yeah.
on screen. I know Big Finish have, but they're
Plenty of times,
beautiful
yeah.
things. I guess Russell sort of did it in Voyage of the Damned with the Heavenly Host, that sort of very Art Deco, um,
Yeah.
sleek sort of look. But yeah, the random world of Doctor Who, getting to dress as a Vok robot and get attacked by Louise.
I mean, I'm sure it was either that or the big rat from Talons.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, Pete, before this lovely coronavirus struck, which I'm sure people have guessed is the point we're recording this in,
Yeah.
was saying, "Oh, would you be up for doing more?" And I know which thing he wanted me to dress up as next time. I'm sort of gutted it's not been able to happen yet, but I live in hope.
Mm.
I want a sideline as monster recreator.
Yeah. That would be a career. Yeah.
It would be. I mean, I'd finally have photos to sign at conventions. How amazing would that be?
I mean, you could just like print out some of your art and then just sign those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just lie and say I'm in everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's odd because we're touching on a lot of things that a lot of like the questions I'm just about to ask are gonna happen, but we're not touching them in a proper way yet. So we might as well just start.
Yeah. I've got a gold. I'm. As I say, I will ramble and go off on tangents and talk about nonsense. So yeah, please drag me back whenever you want to.
I mean, the world of Doctor Who is just a load of fun nonsense, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. There's I'm sort of paraphrasing Doctor Who itself here, but there's that idea of you take the work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. I think that you find that a lot with the people who work on this stuff is generally in themselves they're very relaxed, they're very fun, creative, playful people, whether that's on Big Finish or the TV show.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of fun making it, but you really do have to focus and work, and it's hard work, particularly on the TV series where you're working 11 days out of a fortnight, and you might get up at 5:30 every day and be home at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, and it's really, really hard work. It's draining, but you just sort of get through it because of the lovely people around you. I mean, Big Finish isn't quite that intense, but it's intense in different ways because you end up recording an hour drama in a day. So rather than having 2.5 weeks to do that volume of material, you're just sort of having to hammer through. So thank goodness it's fun.
Yeah. Without, starting to watch Doctor in the first place, you wouldn't have gotten here. So what are your earliest memories of the show? And who's your favourite Doctor growing up? And
yeah. I'm glad you specified who's my favourite Doctor growing up.
Yeah, because I know you wouldn't want me to ask who's your favourite now.
No, weirdly, when you're a kid, it's a lot easier to make those sort of decisions. Also, because you're less exposed to everything, so it's you sort of pick the one that catches your eye. I'm trying to think. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. It was BBC Two back in the early 90s. Did a repeat run of classic episodes. I think it was 92. They did a repeat of the Sea Devils. You'd think out of the Sea Devils, the thing that would stick in your mind would be the Sea Devils coming out of the water.
That is the first thing that would come into my head.
Yeah, no, weirdly, my first Doctor Who memory is the sword fight at the end of episode 3, I think.
I want to say end of episode 3 as well.
Yeah. It feels like episode 4 would be a bit too late for that. But yeah, that's my first clear Doctor Who memory is Roger Delgado and John Pertwee having that sword fight in the prison. I don't know why that's my one particular memory. But yeah, I stuck with it, and I had a friend at school, Tim Jones his name was, who was obsessed with Doctor Who even more than me and sort of introduced me to it. He had all the magazines and the VHSs, and he sort of indoctrinated me in this lovely world. And as a kid, I remember Colin was absolutely my favourite Doctor. I don't know whether it was just the vibrant colour of it or what. I mean, I think the first Doctor Who VHS I ever bought was Vengeance on Varos, which, shouldn't have worked for me as a kid because it's so, in terms of the subject matter, it's dark, but also to watch it, particularly on a blurry VHS, it was very sort of grubby colours and there was nothing really that vibrant about that story particularly. But yeah, Colin's Doctor just gripped me more than the others at that point. And then obviously you watch more of it and you realise each of them has something unique to contribute and you just fall in love with them all in different ways.
Yeah, I've certainly found that because when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, I like these, but this, no, 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 and now I'm just like, I like them all.
Well,
Some
this is
more than
it.
others, but I like them all.
Yeah, and the more distance you have between things, the more you can reappraise.
Yeah.
And, you find it now with the new series.
Oh yeah.
People looking back at the Christopher Eccleston era. Um, I mean, I loved that at the time, but
Yeah.
there are a lot more people who are coming to it fresh,
Yeah.
having watched subsequent Doctors. And, to them it doesn't feel dated. I mean, yes, it's less sophisticated in terms of production, but the story beats are still there, the character's still there, and it's still effectively a new Doctor for a generation who never saw him.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting to watch.
So, how did you enter your professional involvement with the franchise?
Um, I'm trying to think back. I guess my first professional connection was kind of Big Finish. Though it wasn't really Doctor Who. I think back in 2003, Big Finish ran a little slush pile opportunity for new writers. I mean, I don't think it was. I don't think it was little. They were inundated with people wanting to write Doctor Who and do Big Finish, and it was a friend of mine, Dan Hogarth, who was also an actor, said we should pitch something together, and we actually sent in 5 ideas. I think we did 3. We co-wrote, and then I sent in a couple of my own, and got a lovely reply back from Ian Farrington, who was the production assistant at the time and also a producer, who'd been helping Gary Russell with all the entries, and basically saying, this won't work because it's too similar to this, or we just don't feel it's right tonally for Doctor Who or where we want to take it. But there was one idea set in ancient Athens that Gary Russell liked the sound of, and he kept it in his back pocket for a couple of years. It stuck in his mind, and then we met at a convention, and I think he thought, yeah, do you know what? Maybe we should dig that idea out and give it a go. And he passed it on to Simon Gurrier, who was producing Bernice Summerfield at Big Finish, and Simon read it and went, yep, absolutely, I can see where we can go with this. Also helped that his other half was a classicist as well, so he was very much rooted in that period. So that was sort of my intro into Big Finish, and writing for them. And then I did a couple of Dark Shadows and things like that. But it was sort of through that and my introduction to Simon and Gary Russell particularly, that then led me into my career on the TV series, where it was on Doctor Who Confidential.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of 2006, they just needed a runner for a month to literally sort of ferry tapes back and forth between Cardiff, and for some reason the edit for the episode was happening in London. So they just needed someone who could travel stuff back and forth and do a bit of admin stuff and all of that. And Gary Russell, who was by that point script editing Doctor Who, recommended me. And so I went to Cardiff for a little interview chat, and I was terrible. I was really, really bad. I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. The series producers, are now great friends. But it does amuse me when they turn around and say, when you first came in for that chat, we were going, what the hell are we going to do with this guy? He doesn't have a clue. And I didn't. I'd never imagined I could work in TV, so I didn't really know the language of it or anything like that. But what I did have going for me was I was really keen to learn, and I think it's in my nature. I want to understand stuff, so I picked stuff up very quickly, and even after a month they went, okay, this guy's useful, and my contract kept getting extended and extended. So I did a couple of years on Doctor Who Confidential, and then Moved on to the production office of Sarah Jane. Spent some time in the drama office as a PA to Russell and Julie and the execs. Went on to Doctor Who in the production office for Series 6 and just sort of kept bouncing back and forth between different departments. So it was actually a really good learning curve because it meant you saw what everybody did and you had to engage with everyone from the editors to makeup, costume, the script team. The script editors were great because they knew I had an interest in drama and writing and script development. So I did a lot of sort of shadow script editing, and if script editors weren't available, I'd occasionally step in and conduct the meetings with the writers and the execs and things like that. So I got a huge amount out of that. I think I was at the BBC for about 7 years, and then went freelance at the end of 2013, and thankfully by then people knew what I could do, so I just sort of became embraced in the Big Finish fold and everything else. Oh, that was a long-winded answer, wasn't it?
I mean, it was a question that would have the potential to give a long-winded response, so...
I like to be comprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, your career has been comprehensive, so it makes sense that, starting out it would be quite comprehensive.
Yeah, I think it's that thing, isn't it? You never want to say no to anything, and nor should people. But yeah, if you have the opportunity to do something, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess a natural question would be, what interested you to be a writer, director, producer, or whatever things you've not touched upon, in terms of how you became that. What drew you to writing and directing and stuff?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, as a kid, I always had an interest in storytelling. I'd read a lot. It's such a cliche as well to say that those Target novelizations were what drew me into reading, but I genuinely loved Terrance Dicks, and not just his Doctor Who stuff, but some of his other work, particularly Spitfire Summer. I don't know why as a kid that leapt out at me, but it did. And I actually wrote to him, and he sent me a lovely letter back. I probably have it at home somewhere, but he was just a really lovely presence, even as a kid. He was a bit like Santa for writers. And the vocabulary he used, the way he wrote, was really accessible, but also had you reaching for the dictionary to work out what words meant. So he sort of taught me a lot in that sense. And then, a lot of the stuff I did academically was literature-based. Particularly my degree was in the arts and humanities and studying Greek and Latin languages, but also the texts and plays and everything like that. So I was always interested in the structure of drama and things like that. I don't think I ever thought realistically I'd be able to make it a career. I think we're all very good at sort of holding ourselves back in a way, particularly when we're young and we sort of look at everyone who's gone before and gone, well, they're just brilliant, incredible. And I look at the stuff I did in my early days of Big Finish, and we're all quite self-critical, but oh blimey, some of the early stuff is not great. And if I did it again now, I'd know how to fix the problems. But at that age, I just couldn't see it. But that's when people say, "How do you get into writing?" and the answer everyone gives is, "You just write." It's absolutely true, because the more you do, the more relaxed you'll become about putting those words on the page, but also you become aware of the issues that arise. I tried to just keep writing for fun, and then, as I say, there were opportunities to pitch ideas, and you just keep going with that, and it's hard work. Certainly writing is the thing I like least out of the things I do because it's so solitary for the most part. I love script editing because you get all the fun of working on stories, but it's collaborative.
Yeah.
And then directing is fairly similar. You know, you take a script from a writer and you put your spin on it, and actors put their spin on it, and sound designers, musicians will do their thing, and it all comes together, hopefully, in a single product. But, you know, it relies on the input of so many people, all sort of working in harmony. In terms of how I got into that, it was watching Gary Russell again in studio, because he sort of brought me on as an assistant producer for, I think, the last 3 seasons of Gallifrey he did, and the Bernice Summerfield box sets. And again, I just watched what he did, and I loved the idea of taking a text and being able to bring it to life. And I'd done a bit of directing at university for sort of student theatre stuff, and I really enjoyed taking a text and finding all the layers of it and how to express them. So Gary was very generous in letting me direct a couple of Bernice Summerfields, which then led to me being able to turn to Big Finish and say, look, I've got this idea for a series, The Confessions of Dorian Gray. It was made on a shoestring, so I said, look, I'll produce and direct it. But for basically, not for nothing, but it was basically going, look, just trust me to cut my teeth on this. And, if it all goes horribly wrong, you've not lost anything. But at the same time, it might be a good experience. And it was. So that was sort of through a couple of bennies. Yeah, that gave way to the possibility of directing Dorian.
Again, that also answers another question I was... I'm just going to tell you what the question was. That was going to be the next one
right.
I was going to ask. Just because I like how I phrased it. I mean, what ranges were you trusted with to start with?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I've definitely answered that in that Dorian was the first solo range I did, and I think I was only trusted with it because I took it to Big Finish and said, how about doing this? I think it was another couple of years before I was allowed to do a Doctor Who. By which point, I'd had a couple of years of Dorian under my belt, and also the Benny stuff as well, and people felt, okay, this guy sort of knows what he's doing.
Now a question about your art that you do. People can go and visit your Instagram, which I've put the username on screen, and if I've not, it's definitely in the description. But those who only know you only keep up with you via listening to your Big Finish work will see that your art has been used on the latest Dorian Gray, the Isolation audio.
Yeah.
Good audio, by the way. It was my first
bless
Dorian. And I'm actually considering possibly getting more when money is more of a commodity.
Again, a lot like when Dorian started. I only did the cover because I knew we had no budget for any. I mean, we did that little audio for absolutely nothing. So, yeah. I mean, I could have asked someone to do proper cover art, but it just felt like a nice opportunity to do something a bit different.
What inspires you with your art, and how did you get into it? And are there any particular artists you enjoy?
As a kid, again, I was really into my art. In fact, I started art at A level, and a couple of weeks in went, maybe this isn't the subject for me, because I was interested in pursuing classical civilization. So I sort of dropped it because it felt, I can't remember why. It just didn't feel quite right. But I had a brilliant art tutor called Bradley Spencer back in Birmingham, who was incredible and so supportive and fantastic. And I used to be quite good at it, at sketching and everything like that. And I wasn't amazing, but I used to enjoy it, and you could see what things were. And it frustrated me that I'd lost that ability. And occasionally over the years I'd picked up a sketch pad and given it another go, and I'm a very impatient person in that I like to be able to do things. I like to get things done. So even when I start a jigsaw now, I sort of have to park everything else until it's completed. So I sort of downloaded Procreate, which is a sort of art tool on the iPad, and just started playing with that really. And I just like working that way because you have the freedom to cock stuff up basically, because you can easily delete the previous move and you can do layers, so you can work on a sketch layer and then build up colours and things over it and everything like that without, if you do something drastically wrong you can always revert back. So it's a lot more freeing. And also I remember as a kid, again this is so Doctor Who, Alistair Pearson's artwork for things always inspired me because they were so realistic. They were just amazingly produced. I think I remember him talking about how he used to trace images or work on them as a basis for the outlines and stuff. And I sort of use a similar technique in that, again, having the layers, it's really easy to refer to a single image. I mean, it's probably cheating, but it's nice to get that outline fixed. And then, again, having the layers, you can easily refer to, if you open up different windows on the iPad, you can refer more easily to the original image and get the right colours and play with things that way. So, it's just me playing around, really. I guess it's just another equivalent of Photoshop, but where you get to be a bit swishy with the Apple Pencil.
So your productions do one thing, not surprisingly well, surprisingly a little more frequent than other productions, but again, done really well. And it's queer representation. Which I think you've done pretty well.
I never really thought of that, but it's weird hearing it from an outsider because there's not been an agenda to do it, but I think I'm curious where this question's heading. It's not in a bad way.
I know it's not heading in a bad way, obviously. But there's actually a few questions here, but I'll try and keep them brief. How do you approach it? Because as you said, you don't really have an agenda.
I don't know. I think possibly just, being a gay man and, growing up where there wasn't really that identification figure in drama. I mean, apart from stuff like Queer as Folk, which I still remember hiding downstairs in the kitchen watching whilst everyone else was asleep. I think it's just almost that desire to see more people like me in the things I do, and more people like my friends in the things I do. To me, it feels more like it feels more like a representation of the world I'm familiar with. And that extends as well to BAME casting and trans casting as well. I was actually chatting to Andy Pryor about that recently because we had a character come up in a Doctor Who story who is far from the future. They're sort of mixed heritage, part human, part alien, but also transgender and all. I think actually we tweeted non-binary, but I was saying how do you find those actors? Because it's really interesting if you go on actors' websites like Spotlight or things like that. You can search people by accent or height or nationality, accent, all these different things. But actually, even disability. If you need someone if you need someone to represent a very specific disability. But I said, it's difficult to find trans actors. And there's a brilliant agency called the Queer House. But actually, what he recommended was just putting a call out on Twitter, and I had such a healthy and positive response to that, and found some brilliant people. It was actually lovely to be able to introduce them into the Big Finish roster, and I was really keen as well that we don't cast trans actors just for trans parts, because actors are actors; they can play anything.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to know that we're being inclusive in our casting, and then just working a bit harder to get good people on board from every background, I guess. Because it's very easy to default on that sort of stuff and just go for people who you've seen in stuff recently or you've worked with recently or stuff like that. So it's just, I suppose for me, it's just wanting to expand my pool and work with different people, because I think, as we said at the start, variety can make or break something, and the more varied you keep stuff, the more exciting it is. So working with a new person is the most exciting thing in the world. So we always work hard to try and find new actors and writers and composers, everything, just to keep things fresh.
Do you feel that Doctor Who as a franchise has done well, like has grown over the years to show the changing culture of like more acceptance of queer people in society?
Oh yeah, I think Doctor Who's always been inclusive in that way. I mean, you look back at the production teams and even Verity Lambert and Waris Hussein pioneering the pilot back in '63. It's always been quite, I don't want to say radical, but things like this have never really been a stumbling block for them. And even in the '80s, particularly with Sylvester and Sophie, they were pushing sort of, dare I say, more left-wing agenda. But they were definitely. You look at something like that Happiness Patrol, which everyone cites as a story about gay politics in a way, but also even stuff like Survival and the storyline between Sophie and Lisa Bauman.
Yeah,
has sort of lesbian undertones to it. And then, of course, when the TV series comes back under Russell, again, there's no active agenda, but it's just better at reflecting the fact that the world is populated by a diverse range of people, and we can't pretend that's not the case, nor should we. And as that's gone on, and television generally has changed, and audiences are becoming more comfortable, I suppose, viewing it, or in some ways they're not. I mean, you always see whenever there's a gay kiss on soaps, even now, people write in to complain and they're outraged by it. But I think television generally has become better, and I think Doctor Who has also become better, but was also quite good to begin with.
Yeah.
And actually, even when it was off the air, the books and the audios were quite good at keeping things as diverse in the universe as they possibly could.
Yeah, like with Roz and Chris, like I think they are very specific, like pinpoints of like diverse representation, because you've got the excluding like the comics, you've got the first like companion of color and the first properly confirmed non-straight character. I've not read the books. I don't know if... I know Benny's time is more accepting, and it's just like bisexuality is the norm, but I never saw any confirmation that Benny herself is bi, so I'm willing to be corrected if I'm wrong.
No, but I think it's an interesting thing at that period. As you say, you have the two companion figures who are sort of the identification figures for the audience. Yeah. and they're presented as you say, just not giving a hoot about what people think, and they come from a time where everyone is accepted for who they are, and there's not that intolerance, and I think that's a really healthy thing to see. And I think particularly for the audience who were engaging with Doctor Who in the 90s, that tapped into something very personal as well.
Yeah.
And it's even stuff like it's mad to think that when Pearl Mackie came in, there had never really been an LGBT companion on screen before, and the response to that. I mean, you just looked at Twitter. The number of people who celebrated that because they finally felt represented. It had a powerful impact, and it's very easy to dismiss it as, it's just a TV show, everything like that. But actually, what we see and how it connects with us is hugely important. So I think that also makes me aware when it comes to working on Big Finish stuff. You don't just want to. I mean, it'd be very boring if everyone just sounded and came from the same background, and it's just more interesting for an audience anyway to have people who come from different backgrounds and don't sound white middle class.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that draws these sorts of people into Doctor Who? And when I say these sorts of people, I mean like the variety. That's what I mean, like the variety of.
I don't know if it
backgrounds.
I don't know if it really draws people per se. I don't think anyone looks at anything and goes, "Oh, this is for me because it's particularly diverse." But I think it stops feeling exclusive. I think there are a lot of people for whom it might have appealed to them, but and watched it, but suddenly they feel like it's made for them. That sounds a little bit patronising, but it doesn't feel like it's that thing, isn't it? As kids, you always want to sort of participate in things, and as a gay kid growing up in the 90s, it always felt like I don't know, even stuff like sports, it always felt, well, I'm gay, so clearly I'm not going to be good at sports or stuff like that. I mean, really lazy stereotypes and things, but you're sort of conditioned to think you can't be involved in that. And I think, I don't think it draws people, but I think it allows those who are engaging to feel better represented and make it feel like they're part of the community a bit more. Again, I can only relate that to my own experiences as a gay man, but I think also it's good for people who, dare I say, might be less tolerant to see this stuff in the mainstream and realise, if they just ventured beyond the end of their road, there's a much wider world out there.
Yeah.
And I think, politically, the age we live in, there's a lot more of that. Weirdly, the more we're plugged into devices and we can find out more about the world, I think there's also less impetus to go and explore it. Yeah. And I think, I don't want to get too political, but I think there are a lot of people who choose not to engage with the wider world and just
it's unfortunate, but I do agree, like, because there's still people today who aren't over that announcement in 2017 that Doctor Who she's not a man anymore. No,
and there's horrific stuff even from 2005 about the relationship between Rose and Mickey, where you're sort of going, first of all, are you really upset by that? But also, you have the time to actively write into the BBC to complain about this. And stuff like that bewilders me. I
Yeah.
don't understand how people can feel so vociferously about this stuff, and you know, I barely have time to you know, check in with all my friends and stuff, and I don't care what people I don't know are up to. This idea that we should have an opinion on everything is insane, but
Yeah.
it's that what happens to sort of live and let live.
Yeah.
But I don't know. People find it very easy to get worked up and complain about things, and yeah, I just can't get my head around that.
Yeah. On to lighter topics.
Sorry, yes, got very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. What tips would you give someone in terms of writing and directing? And yeah, what tips would you give someone who wants to do what you do?
Oh
Basically.
Lord. I mean, I've touched upon this in sort of odd places, but in terms of writing, just keep writing.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people think, oh, I want to write Doctor Who, or I want to write Freestenders or something like that, and I think that's always going to kill you stone dead, because you sort of limit yourself then. And actually what people are looking for are people who can write good character and good drama. So what you want to do really is start off writing your own thing. Set up your own world and your own characters and everything like that. And actually if you can do that, most people will go, wow, they can originate something that's brilliant. They understand drama, they understand the structure. So you're more likely to get an opportunity to write for the thing you love if you can write other things first. And I know you've sort of got to get stuff to show to people. Never send in unsolicited ideas, by the way, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just send in an idea, it might be a brilliant idea, and they'll just see it and go, we have to make this. And it doesn't happen. It's the moment people see an idea in an inbox, it automatically gets deleted, because just for legality, really, we can't be allowed to see it. So never do that. But you know, if you write your own thing, and even if you do it as a little YouTube short film or a little fringe theatre piece, or you know, little amateur things that you can put out there and say to people, look, I've done this. Or in the age of the podcast, do a little podcast. You know, there's nothing to stop us creating our own content. It doesn't have to be the most polished thing in the world, but particularly when you're writing, if your writing is good, it will sort of not be confined by the limitations of production. I mean, you look at old Doctor Who for that. There's some brilliant scripts that still stand up, even though the visuals are not what they could be. In terms of
A lot of the time, they don't need to be all they could be.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
So
as you say,
it's just enjoy writing and give things a go. That's probably the sort of biggest advice for anything is never close yourself off to an opportunity. It's sort of how I ended up at the BBC, and then that sort of kick-started my career, was me going, well, do I really want to move to Cardiff for just a month? Which I did, and that month became, oh God, I've been living here 14 years now. And that all happened because I said yes to a 4-week contract and then did other things. And, you know, it's very easy to say no to things because you think you can't do them. I've almost turned down mad things because I was convinced about it. A producer friend of mine asked me to script edit a drama for ITV a few years back, and I said, I've never done this before. I can't do it. And bless her, she'd been one of the producers on Doctor Who, and she went, well, I've seen you in the offices, I've seen you in script meetings, I know you can, so come in. And so yeah, she sort of took me around, and then I did it, and I went, oh, why was I scared of this? And I think it's very easy for us to be scared of new things we've not done before, because naturally we're scared of failing, but equally, you know, it's a cliche again, but you don't learn anything through not doing it. But also failure is quite good for that, because you have to find ways to fix things, and you work out what went wrong. And writing's similar. Directing's a harder one. I think just because the sort of content that's out there that needs a director is fewer and further between. But again, if you get involved with theatre stuff or just amateur theatre or again, originate your content, even if you're not inclined to write, if you know someone who wants to write, do a little YouTube short and just play around. I mean, if you want to show what you can do as a director, in those terms, the work you do doesn't matter. You could easily just pluck a script from the internet, something out of copyright, just give it a tweak and put your own spin on it and show what you can do. But again, by playing around, you can easily create content and work out what works for you, what feels right, and then just build up a portfolio, whether that be with amateur dramatic stuff or YouTube stuff, or you hear brilliant audio dramas now online where sound designers are cutting their teeth and playing with that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's sort of just having the conviction and belief that you can do it, and people absolutely can. I think the other thing I'll add actually is sort of because I've experienced it, it's very easy to look at people around you or people who've come before and compare yourself to them and sort of go, I'm clearly failing because they've achieved this at that age or that point in their career, and I'm not advancing at the same speed, or it's very easy to make excuses based on stuff like that. But everybody works at a different rate, and people get different opportunities at different times. So don't fall into the trap of looking around you and sort of going, I should be doing this now, because there's no right or wrong to it. Everyone's got their own journey, and the more you focus on that journey, the faster you'll achieve what you want to. But if you get distracted by where other people were or where you think you should be, you sort of become blind to what you could be doing.
Yeah. You've written and directed a lot of horror for Big Finish. So have you had any ghostly encounters yourself?
No, I really wish I had. But no, I mean, I've had. There was one place I was living where I remember waking up and genuinely thinking there was someone else in the room with me. Just a dark figure, to the point that I had to get up and run downstairs and phone a friend, and I couldn't go back up to my bedroom for a couple of hours. It was a really intense feeling. But it's just one of those. Our brains are phenomenal things for just deceiving us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never had anything ghostly happen. I kind of really wish I had. Maybe that's why I do so much horror, is just sort of desperately willing it to happen.
Yeah. So, from the horrors of the supernatural to the horrors of Gallifreyan politics, what drives you... Well, not what drives you. What about Gallifrey as a concept interests you? Is it the mythology or the politics? Or the interesting personalities that come from that?
I think like any drama, it's the characters, isn't it, that you find yourself in. And politically, that's always interesting because people have different agendas, naturally. And sometimes they have agendas they don't believe in. I mean, you look at just everyday politics in this country you see people and go, do you really believe this, or are you just pursuing this because you think it's what you should be doing? I think that the characters are the most interesting thing. There's a lot of continuity, and I think that's lovely, and it has a place. But Gallifrey couldn't survive on just exploring Gallifreyan protocols alone. I think people would get
Yeah.
very tired of it very quickly.
I guess that's why Time War works so well, because you don't need to worry about that. The chronology of the universe sort of doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah, it's really it's interesting. I don't know if people know this, but I did 3 box sets of Gallifrey with Gary Russell, which were the original Gallifrey 4, 5, and 6. And then he went to Australia, and I ended up doing Intervention Earth and Enemy Lines. And I remember saying to David Richardson, "That's it for me. I can't think of anything else to do with Gallifrey." Because it just felt like, we explored all the characters we could, and we suddenly weren't allowed to use K9 or anything like that. And yeah, and then he dangled Gallifrey Time War in front of me, which suddenly became an opportunity to, drive the story up to date a little bit more. Because Gallifrey under a war footing is very different. And also it meant I sort of adopted Matt Fitton as the script editor, and he was doing so much Time War stuff. He had really lovely ideas on where we could take it and how we could drive the story politically, and shake things up a bit. So yeah, we did that a bit more, and then for the most recent set, we were able to exile Romana and Narvin. So again, it meant we could tell slightly different stories because, after, blimey, it's coming up to 16 years, I think, since the first series of Gallifrey. It's quite difficult to keep stories fresh if you're constantly repeating the same political machinations in the Panopticon. So
Yeah.
it's been quite nice to broaden the scope of Gallifrey into something a bit more. I was going to say global, but universal.
People who are fans of Gallifrey could also be fans of another series, because if they really like one or the other, there is a certain link between the two. Irving Braxiatel, yeah, I'm on about Bernice Summerfield. I'm really reaching with these segues, by the way.
No,
So,
Lord. Yeah, Benny, bless her.
yeah. This isn't really a question about the Benny audios themselves, but this is a question based on one specific one. I did have a little bit of help, like, organizing these questions. What was it like playing yourself in an audio? Yeah, what was it like playing yourself in that one audio?
Oh, it was fine. I mean, we were playing slightly exaggerated versions of ourselves anyway, so we got to go a bit over the top. I mean, looking back, we should never have done that story. It was indulgent, and yeah. I mean, I don't know why we did it. I mean, we'd been told to wrap up the current run of Benny, and so I don't know. We just thought it'd be a bit different and silly and a fun way to end things, having the actors play a version of themselves in a different reality. And the cast all loved it, but dramatically. Again, it's one of those things that, looking back, I'd go, yeah, why are we doing this? Is this a story that needs to be told? I mean, yeah, it sounds a bit wanky to go, is there a message to this? And there absolutely wasn't. It was just silliness. So yeah.
So how was bringing in the likes of David Warner for a Benny box set?
Yeah, I think again, James is just always looking for ways to shake up. You don't want anything to become business as usual. I think after a couple of sets of reuniting Benny with the Seventh Doctor, he just thought, wouldn't it be interesting if the wrong one popped up? And David had been established in the Unbound series years back. And David loves Big Finish. And so it's just a lovely opportunity to establish his Doctor. And actually, David's quite like his Doctor in that he's he's an absolute hero, but he likes to cultivate this little image of being a bit of a curmudgeon and a grump, but he's got a heart of gold. So it's always really, really fun to have him in studio again.
As Volume 5 has had fan writers submit stories, again, that's similar to how you started out on Big Finish. Would you say Benny is a good IP for this to be done with? And do you think it could work with other ranges?
I think Benny's a good range because, dare I say it, not that many people are familiar with it. So it again comes back to that thing of, if you want to write, you want to write. I think a lot of people out there might... actually, you see it happen when these schemes are announced and they say, "Oh, write a story for Bernice Summerfield or enter the competition," and then you see comments online of people going, "Well, if it was a story opportunity for the third Doctor, I'd be there like a shot because I've had an idea for ages." And you sort of go, "Yeah, that's not what writing's about." And even when you have a good idea, it then goes through so many stages and changes, particularly for the audio medium, which is a tough medium to crack. So actually, it's good because you find the writers who are interested in telling stories and don't just want to tell a very particular story. And I know James is always very keen to find new writers. And actually, we've always been very hot on, looking at the latest theatre output and looking at fringe stuff and trying to find people who are up and coming. People like Tim Foley. I can't remember how I came across Tim Foley, but he was definitely just breaking into the theatre scene, and I think I offered him a Gallifrey and realised he was brilliant, and then just he got more and more, and is now being embraced by lots of different ranges. So it's interesting how someone can just have one opportunity at Big Finish, and then if they're demonstrably good and adaptable, can become a mainstay of it. Same thing happened with Matt Fitton.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so long as you don't have that fixation on only writing for Doctor Who, there are plenty of opportunities out there to show what you can do as a writer, and as we've seen in other cases, they pay off. But Benny, I think James is certainly very keen to use that as an opportunity to find new people.
I honestly don't have a segue for this one, and this is just a one-off question about Iris. I would ask, what's it like directing an Iris? I assume it's just a one-word answer of fun. I mean, if the energy in the studio was anything like the energy you get off of an Iris audio,
yeah, I mean,
then it must be really fun.
Katie's one of my favourite people anyway. I mean, I've known Katie so many years, and I was only dragged into Iris to do occasional silly voices in some of the Gary Russell ones for Cav and Mark, and so
Alfredo,
yeah, and
Claws of Santa.
Yeah, oh god.
I did actually in a video where I was talking about Claws of Santa, I did point out, yeah, you did good in that.
I mean, the scary thing is there's not that much treatment on it. I was pretty much doing that voice myself in studio, and Sarah Douglas, bless her, still reminds me of that whenever I see her. But yeah, so I think the only Iris I directed was... I mean, I did an episode of her for the Worlds of Big Finish, and then we did one final box set, which was a lot of fun. We got a lot of lovely people in to do it, but because of budgets and scheduling, it meant we were leaping around doing different bits from different episodes in a single day. So it was actually quite chaotic because no one knew what we were doing from one thing to another. So yeah, I mean, I have fond memories of it, but it was not an easy week. And actually, it sounds mad because you think all we're doing is reading words in an audio studio, but it requires a lot of concentration. So actually, doing 4 days straight in studio is really tiring and exhausting. I think on other things we've tended to do Monday, Tuesday, have a day off on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday. But yeah, it can be exhaustive.
I mean, would that be the reason why the range has sort of been discontinued?
No, I don't think so. I think I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but I think there was a license with Paul Mars, and I think possibly that came to a natural end. And I think Iris is an acquired taste, and I think people are slightly scared to try her out. So, yeah. I don't know the reasons. But then, Big Finish love Iris as well, so she's turned up in quite a few of the monthly range stories now. So, yeah, I don't know why it stopped. I do sort of sometimes think, did I accidentally kill the range? But I knew there was potential for that box set to be the last one, which is why we ended it with the story we did. But yeah.
So another range that you directed Katie in was Torchwood. Again, I'm doing stretches here with my segues.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, I've directed Katie in a lot of stuff now. But yeah, we brought Jo Jones back in Torchwood. We had a lovely little run of stories that pitted Torchwood against classic Doctor Who villains or monsters, and Torchwood set in Cardiff, so we were looking for something Welsh and thought the Green Death naturally, and I do remember saying to James how are maggots going to work on audio, because I think we just assumed we'd use Boss. But he was insistent. No, if you're going to do a sequel, you need the maggots. So we did that. But yeah, that was a mad old day, because when John Barrowman's over, we have very limited time with him. So we recorded that play, but we also had to do his material for another play in the same day. And I think Katie was rewriting dialogue as she said it. She tends to live in the moment rather than necessarily read the script. So it was an interesting session in a lot of ways, but a lot of fun. And John's such a fanboy as well. There's just a real thrill to the idea of doing a sequel to that story.
What makes directing one Torchwood range different from another? For example, the monthlies, just recording with one person, compared against recording box sets with an ensemble cast.
I suppose the main thing is time. On the monthly range, they're usually hour-long dramas, so you record it all in a single day. So it's a lot more contained. With the box set stuff, you have 4 plays, which leads to 4 days in studio. So actually, it's more of a jigsaw, because often because of our actors being so busy, we might get people just for a day here and there, and so they have to record all their material for one day, or for 4 CDs for the box set in a single day. So very often, with the new series stuff, I end up having to read in for all the other characters and just feed people cue lines, and then in the edit we make it sound like everyone's together. So long as people are giving the same energy, you don't notice. So if there's pace to a scene, or people are slowing down, so long as they match that, and similarly with volume and reactions to explosions and things like that, it makes my life a lot harder as a director. Having to ensure that everyone's coming into it at the same point. But it's quite satisfying when you listen back to things and go, not one person actually met each other for that scene. And, particularly with John being based out in LA, he often has to do all his stuff separately anyway. So it's it's a lot harder than doing one of the monthlies.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think James Goss is very grateful that I have a sort of slightly OCD forensic approach to scheduling, because it means we can achieve a lot with quite limited time and resources. It's also been great because it's given me experience of that way of working ahead of our current lockdown situation, where we're having to direct people separately and do that anyway. So yeah, it's just a lot more involved to doing the box set, because you've got to keep several scripts in your head at a time and get a lot more done in a day than you normally would.
Yeah. When tortured scripts are submitted, are they usually submitted with the whatever range it is in mind? Like, I'm sure by the looks of it, like, Tortured 1 scripts
Yeah.
would be made specifically for Tortured 1, but would an idea be submitted by one of the, or commissioned for a writer? Like,
Yeah.
would it be like, would there be a situation where, oh, we've got an idea for a monthly, but we think it could work better in like Aliens Among Us or God Among Us?
Do you know? I don't think that has happened really, because I think with the Tortured 1 stuff, I mean, I'm not really across it, but James, I think, quite likes thematic stuff for that, and so we'll go in with an idea of what he wants the box set to be about, and then approach writers to come up with ideas that tie into that. The monthly stories are more standalone, so they're sort of a testing ground for new people to come in, I guess, or for those one-off ideas that don't quite key into anything else. I mean, the joy about the monthly stuff is you can pitch them for particular characters. So if you have a story you think might be a good fit for Yanto, you can pitch it there, or Toshiko, or that's probably the one where you have the most flexibility. With the new series box sets, Aliens Among Us and God Among Us, I scripted those as well, so I know James comes at it with sort of the. I mean, when we start, we don't have every storyline throughout the 12 episodes, but he certainly has an idea of what he wants from the first box set and what we need to develop in the later box sets so we reach the end. So in those terms, it's sort of harder to find stories that work independently but will also satisfy a place in a much larger arc. So in answer to your question, no, I don't think there is that much chopping and changing. I think James commissions with the range in mind.
Can you tell us about any potential future Tortured box sets, as in general whatever ranges? Well, we know about Tortured Soho.
Yeah, Torchwood Soho is very exciting. Love a bit of Sam Barnett and Tom Price, and we also have the lovely Joe Sheary and Derv LeCoe in sort of nice supporting roles in that. And it's just, if people liked Goodbye Piccadilly, they will enjoy Tortured Soho. It's got a lot of heart, but also a nice balance of humour and horror to it as well. And they're half-hour episodes. Weirdly, it's a bit like those old Sexton Blake radio dramas of the 50s and 60s,
which works because of Norton.
They're sort of slightly more noirish thing, but it's more a serial than 3 discs of distinct adventures.
But I'm guessing there's no hints you could give about anything else beyond that.
There are definitely other box sets in the works, possibly not things people would be expecting, so I'm not going to I can't say anything about anything because it's not been announced, but as with all these things, it depends on availability and scheduling,
Yeah.
and we're in lockdown, so I think everyone goes, oh, it must be really easy because everyone's got free time, and you go, yeah, people might do, but if they don't have decent recording equipment, and people do need a decent quality microphone, but also they need a decent space. If you're in a busy household,
Yeah.
and you've got quite large rooms that echo, it's not going to be any good. So we're really quite, Big Finish has a sort of quality we want to maintain. So we're slightly limited in terms of who we can record with at the moment. But Torchwood's been wonderfully successful for Big Finish. So there's going to be more.
Yeah.
But I just can't say what of.
Here's an idea that I've thought, like, why haven't they done this? So I'm just asking, have there been discussions of doing Torchwood Monthlies with the characters in the new series box sets, like Tyler, Colchester, or Aang, and possibly modern day Yvonne?
I think I've occasionally mentioned it to James, but I think they're so rooted in the events of the Among Us box sets. It sort of feels like that's where they belong, and we don't have that much opportunity to tell stories with the old guard, so it might feel slightly like stealing their thunder.
Just saying, if there was a Torchwood monthly cover and Paul Clayton was like front and center, you already have my money. So,
oh, bless Paul Clayton.
Yeah. Couple questions about Lives of Captain Jack, because you directed it as well. What was it like to see John Barrowman in that coat?
Oh, I think we all wore that coat that day. I love how many people think it was photoshopped, and James went to a lot of effort sourcing a brilliant replica for the photo opportunity, and we were really lucky that it came up at a point when John was in the country with us, because normally, as I say, actually it's sort of half and half, but very often he records from LA where he lives. But yeah, James worked hard to get that coat, and it was a lot of fun to try it on, but also to see John wearing it. And Tony Whitmore took a load of lovely portraits of him wearing the outfit. It was that was just one of those bonkers James Scott scripts you get and go, are we really doing this? And then, it just comes alive in studio and you go, this is so much fun.
I love the fact that box set came out in June. So we can say that that's probably like the official Big Finish Pride Month special release.
Yeah. Again, yeah. I think we recorded it quite close to release. So I don't know how I think the scheduling was completely coincidental, but yeah, it was definitely as big and colourful as you wanted it to be.
Yeah. This time, my segue is a question. With Torchwood and Class, you seem to be one of the go-to people to help revive spin-offs and audio. Why do you think that is?
I think on Torchwood it was because I'm trying to think. I think originally Big Finish were developing Torchwood, and I think Gary Russell was actually across the original plans, but then he got a job in Australia, which meant he wasn't able to deliver that. And Big Finish went, well, look, we've got this license, we really should be doing something with it. So it turned to James, and I'd already been working with James a lot by that point on Benny and other things, and we had a good working relationship. So I think he said, look, what do you have? Where do you think we should go? I think we already had the one script from David Llewellyn, the sort of the conspiracy one.
Yeah.
So we sort of inherited that. Actually, no, I tell a lie. I think James commissioned that. I'm misremembering now. Yeah, because it's very different from what Gary pitched. So I don't think that would have happened. But I'm trying to remember now. I think I was asked to come on board, and that's it. I think I was asked to pitch some ideas as sort of companion chronicle style dramas, with a leading narrator, and then other parts here and there.
Which is what I expected the Monthlies to be after listening to The Conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's very much that style.
Yeah, and then I think that was commissioned, and then James came on board more formally as a producer when it became clear that Gary wasn't going to be able to oversee it. And he went, the conspiracy's fine, but I don't want to do narrated stuff. I want to do, if we've got these people, we can do small cast dramas and make them more intimate, but I want them to be full cast. And so that's why that first season feels a little bit wonkier, because then when we go back to doing another one with John, it's more narration-led again. But yeah, there was a bit of a false start with Torchwood, and then James just hit his stride and went, right, we're doing this, and it happened, and it was lovely. So yeah, I think I was just sort of on Torchwood. I was sort of brought in to look after it for Gary, and then just became more involved when James took over. With Class, I think it's literally the fact I was at that point the youngest producer Big Finish had. They've now got the lovely Alfie Shaw, who has usurped me in that regard. But I think just Nick and David went, he probably gets this material more than we do, and I think particularly because of stuff like Dorian as well. They just felt it was a better fit, and also having worked at the BBC and BBC Wales and being connected with the people involved, it just felt like I was more familiar with stuff like Class and Torchwood, having been around when they were being made.
Yeah. So, how did Class come to becoming a Big Finish series?
I think, it took a while for us to get going, but Big Finish got the license around the time the TV show was being broadcast. I think BBC Studios, or Worldwide as they may have been then, said, look, we've got this property coming up, do you want the license? So Big Finish got a license to do 12 stories, but I think I was going to say, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the wording said, it had to be within the TV series timeline, as were the novels that came out and everything like that.
Yeah, which makes sense as a tie-in thing.
Yeah, so that was the thing. They couldn't go beyond the end of the TV series, I think is probably how it was phrased, because at that point they were still planning a potential for a second series. So presumably when that happened, we would have been allowed to tell stories within Series 2, but again, not take it beyond wherever that ended up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it became clear the series wasn't coming back, but we were developing the audio episodes. And I know a lot of people say, look, why can't you just resolve the cliffhanger? And it's because we're not actually allowed to. Yeah, I can't remember what the question was for this.
It was literally just, how did it come about?
Oh yeah, that's how.
I'm pretty sure that's been adequately answered. And so, has any plans for any follow-up? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Big Finish were to renegotiate the license now.
Yeah.
I can't see any reason why they'd say it has to be set within the TV run. And actually, I know that Patrick Ness, who's been across all our storylines and scripts, actually said last time, do these have to be set within the TV series? Because he felt they were limiting us, but we were sort of going, well, legally we have to. So I think he'd certainly be amenable if there were any more to extending the story, and I think even sort of telling us where he wanted to go with it, so we could replicate that. But as with all these things, I think it depends on demand. And I know the first couple of volumes when they came out really took Big Finish by surprise. So I don't know. Who knows?
Because it is something that I do see happening, but I know, I knew going into this interview under current contract it probably wouldn't, because.
But that's the thing, we've made 4 volumes now, and we've done the 12 stories, so anything else is fair game, I think, if it were to happen. And I love working with all those guys as well. They've been great fun. And it's lovely to get them in other ranges as well. I think I've done that with Sophie and Jordan so far. So, it's just a really lovely cast.
May I ask, is one of those ranges the War Master by any chance? I think I remember seeing Jordan's name on Anti-Genesis.
Yeah. He was. Yeah. He played a few little aliens.
Oh my gosh, this segue worked. So, how did you manage to convince Sir Derek Jacobi to work for Big Finish? I mean, is there a trick to get big actors such as him and Sir Michael Palin into the studio?
No, I mean, the War Master came about because I'm trying to think when it would have been. I think it was 2017, and I was just at a general meeting with Nick and Jason and David about Big Finish stuff going forward. And I remember saying, look, you've got John Hurt as the War Doctor. And I've pitched to do a box set about the Master years before. And it was nixed, I think, because they were doing Dark Eyes with Alex McQueen, and they felt a bit... So I'd always wanted to do a thing about the Master. I just said, look, you've got John Hurt as the War Doctor. Have you ever thought about doing the War Master with Derek Jacobi? And they thought there'd be all sorts of issues with continuity and things like that. But I said, no, look, I've got a way around it. And they were game. And, I know Russell from our days working on the TV series, and, bless him, he's now a good friend, which is always helpful. So I said to him, look, if we did this, would you mind... I asked for his advice to make sure that if we did it, we weren't going to conflict with anything or upset his vision for the Master during the Time War. And he agreed. And, Derek is a working actor. And frankly, I think he was just quite flattered that someone remembered his portrayal and went, oh, do you want to come back? And he loves voice work as well, so it's been a dream thing for him. I certainly never expected... I sort of, having pitched it, I sort of thought they'd go, oh, well, you can script edit it or produce it. I never thought I'd be allowed to direct it. But of course was thrilled to be allowed to. And, I think Nick instantly saw that Derek and I just had a rapport. So it's actually really weird and really nice to come back to those sessions and box sets and do more with the character. And even during lockdown, we've been just sending each other little emails going, "Are you okay? How's it going?" And then you mentioned Michael Palin there, where again he's someone that I've just sort of almost always dreamt of meeting or working with in some capacity, and you never expect to be able to do it. But we'd been working on Tropical Beach Sounds, and it was going to be a single voice narrator. And James Goss just turned to me and said, "Look, work your magic, see who you can get." And it's one of those things when you have a job like that, which is, it's a single day in a sound studio, and it's a script like that as well. you sort of know you can offer it to anyone and they'll be interested. And, it was just joyous to be able to send it to Michael Palin, and, the emails coming out going, he's reading it. And then the emails coming out going, he enjoyed it. What would you need? You sort of go, oh my God, I think we're actually going to get him. So I think it's all about the quality of the work, and, the scripts really fascinate people. I think we sort of take it for granted because we're immersed in sci-fi and fantasy stuff all the time. But I think if you don't do much of that stuff, it really does blow your mind. And that's what happened with Michael, and it was lovely that he agreed to come in and do it.
Oddly enough, my follow-up question, I was originally going to introduce it as a natural follow-up question, but now it's even more natural, because of how you said you've always wanted to work with Sir Michael Palin, you've always dreamt of this. Is there any other actors that you also dream of working with someday?
Oh Lord, do you know I've always loved Robert Glenister. I don't know what it is, but I've just really always wanted to get him in something. And I know he's not a big starry name or anything like that, but he's just a really classy, brilliant actor. I'd love to work with him on something. And I've offered him stuff, but he's never available because he's so busy doing lots of things. But I think
I'm sure he would do it if he wasn't so busy.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is what you always get from people is they say, they're not free at the moment, but do please keep in mind. And I mean, there are people you write off because you think we'd never be able to afford someone like that.
And then John Hurt comes rolling in.
Yeah, or
is,
someone like Gillian Anderson, who again is just mesmerising in so much TV stuff. I don't know. I mean, if Michael Palin's taught me anything, it's never say never, because one day the right project will come up at the right time, and you'll be able to go, okay. But yeah, I do have a list.
Yeah. So back on the actual topic of War Master. What were the starting ideas behind each box set? So we've already touched on how the first War Master was just essentially, this is an idea for a box set, just have the Master and...
Yeah, I sort of wanted to show the Master as a proper... I mean, it always annoys me that when he features in Doctor Who, he's a bit of a buffoon because he's up against the Doctor, so he has to be defeated. So I sort of wanted a series where the Master can win. And, you're sort of rooting for him, but also he's despicable with it. And, I mean, that first box set, we genuinely only thought we'd get Derek for one series.
Yeah.
And as part of his recording block, he did the one episode of Gallifrey Time War as well. So we thought that was our lot. And, it was a delight when we got to the end of the week and he said, can I do more? I went, sure. So yeah, we'd sort of done that and accidentally written into the end for him. But the joy of sci-fi and time travel is you can go and do stuff whenever. The idea for the second box set was that mostly did come from James and Guy, who wrote it. I think I knew I wanted the Ood because I just thought. I mean, I love the Ood. I love the Satan Pit, and the idea of a creature that falls under telepathic control just felt like such a great fit for the Master. So I basically said, look, tell me a story of the Ood, and they came up with the colony world and this story that aped Joseph Conrad and just made it about the interactions of a human colony. And it's one of the darkest things I think I've done, particularly in the Doctor Who universe. The third box set, Rage of the Time Lords, again, that sort of stemmed from me knowing I wanted to do something with the War Master meeting a doctor.
Yeah.
And again, I chatted through with Russell and said, "Is this okay?" Um, and yeah, I think I sort of I roughly knew where I wanted to end up, but again, I gave it to the writers Tim Foley and David Llewellyn to construct what they wanted to do with it.
Basically make the Master Nick Fury.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But actually, the original idea was a bit more. I think it was all set in one time zone. I think there's stuff with Oliver Cromwell and heads on spikes that were talking, which David later nicked for a Torchwood thing. And I think the Master was a sort of chief necromancer for the king, and the Doctor had become an astrologist for him and things like that. And the whole first episode was the Master almost as a witchfinder general, but then the first season of Jodie came up and we weren't allowed to do that. So the whole thing then just flipped on its head.
Yeah.
And then the fourth box set, I think, was just me casually saying to Nick, look, it's a big time war. The Daleks are an unstoppable force. Why wouldn't the Master ever look at them and go, do you know what? These guys are going to win. Maybe I should just nip back in time and get there first. And then Nick and Alan just... Actually, it was Nick who storylined the whole thing. But yeah, he and Alan just did a lovely thing. Developing this sort of homage to Genesis for the Daleks then. And then... That's all we've released so far, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That could have got very confusing.
Yeah. That's all you've really saw. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I think actually, when's this interview going out?
hopefully by the end of the month.
Oh, okay, so yeah. By that point, there'll probably be news on more War Master.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's sort of thinking it will probably happen anyway because it doesn't make sense not to do more. Everything points to...
Well, this is it. Derek's enjoying it, and, you know, quite honestly, actors leak stuff on their Spotlight profiles, and I think people have seen that we've recorded stuff, so...
Yeah.
Yes, formally I'm meant to toe the party line and say, what? I know nothing about it. But they're really exciting, the stuff that we've got coming up. And who the Master meets, so, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that news story. If it's already out, well, well, this is going to sound silly for me. Because we've only seen Derek and his Master for pretty much 5 minutes on screen. I mean, he was in like most of the episode, but we only saw him as the Master on screen for about 5 minutes of screen time. How difficult was it to expand upon his character? And how do you make it natural to expand something which hasn't had, which has only had like a few minutes of screen time?
Yeah, I mean, we say he's only had a few minutes of screen time, but it's sort of, it is the Master, isn't it? So, you know, it's a bit like saying, how could Big Finish do so much Paul McGann when they've only got one TV movie to base it on? So it was sort of, you know, I've been watching a lot of Hannibal, which is one of my favourite TV dramas ever. It's just so stylish, and it really got inside my head. And I think I just went, you know what, the Master's a bit like Hannibal Lecter, particularly the Mads Mikkelsen version, in that he's just really suave and urbane and charming, but utterly pragmatic and deadly. So it's just, I think that's sort of how I pitched it to writers, was saying, just imagine he is Hannibal Lecter. He will be, you could take him home to meet your mother. He would be delightful company, but turn your back and you're dead. So it's sort of just looking at the Master generally. And, you know, you see that so much in even those, the brief few minutes he's the Master on screen of, he's quite reasonable. There's that seething fury under him, but he's quite contained, and that final "I am the Master" where he whispers it before lashing out. Yeah, that sort of just epitomizes it for me. He's just someone who's very calm. He's not lashing out too much. He's not big and boisterous or anything like that. He's just taking his time and enjoying being the villain. And that's great fun. It's nice to do something that isn't too zany and is quite thoughtful. Yeah, and again, he does some really despicable stuff in the particularly the sixth box set we've got going on. He does some very nasty stuff to some lovely people.
I mean, he's already done that in the second box set.
Yeah,
that first episode. Ooh.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because lots of people complained that he wasn't in it much, and sort of felt a bit cheated. And
I'm one of the minority that think that actually worked for that box set. It wasn't something I was wanting for the whole series, and and part of me thought, maybe they did this because they heard everyone loved the Skyman so much, and he was more of a background element in that, controlling everything. And
no, it's sort of that thing though that the more present you are with the character, the more you know about their plans and what makes them tick. And that's great if you're with the hero because you're solving it with them. But actually, if you're with a character who his plans need to be kept in the dark for the horror to unravel, it's a bit harder to do. I remember some people going, well, clearly they didn't have Derek for enough days, but actually we had him for as many days as we normally do. It had just been written in that way. And in fact, I think the first draft of episode 1, James had written it, so literally you didn't hear anything from him until the very final scene. And so there was only one phone call. So it had been building to that moment. And I think we just read it and went, it's great, it's dramatic, but equally, you sort of want to drip feed him. So I said, give him an opening monologue and a few more little phone chats throughout, which I think work to build up to the final.
Yeah, just as I think that's just as effective, especially because that final phone call.
Yeah,
honestly, that final phone call is possibly the thing that makes the box set itself. The rest of the box set is great, but that's probably one of the standout War Master moments for me.
I still love the beginning of episode 4 where he's being electrocuted, purely because he gave that much energy just on the read through, and I remember Pippa Hayward looking at me going, "Oh my god, what the hell was that?" Because she just wasn't expecting that level of commitment to the shrieking, and bless him. I think that's also the box set where Derek finally turned around and went, "What is this stuff?" Because we'd actually recorded Volume 3 by then, so Volume 2 was the third one he did, and there was a sequence of him playing a sort of beetle man, sort of dream monster in a food machine.
Yeah.
And we got to the end of that scene and he was just laughing at how ridiculous you could just see him going, "I'm a knight of the realm. Why am I doing this?" But he loved it. He just went, I'd never get asked to do this anywhere else, so yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Anti-Genesis, which was the maddest stuff I've ever heard on Big Finish. And I realised I was only on episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I'd sort of had more of a handle on steering the other box sets. But with this one, I think I'd given Nick the basic brief, and then he came up with all the other aspects. So he wanted to bring Narvin into it and the Gallifreyan politics and everything like that.
Which makes complete sense, I think. If you're doing something that even the Daleks wouldn't do.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think maybe I had come up with I think maybe I did say, let's do the Mark Gatiss Master. Because I thought by Volume 4 you wanted a hook. You'd had... Volume 1 had been the Master, this incarnation returning. Volume 2 had the Ood. Volume 3 had he meets the Doctor. So I think Volume 4 needed that thing of, he meets the Master.
I think Volume 4 worked on its own. Just as soon as you saw it was called Anti-Genesis, and you connect the dots, to me that was enough of a hook. But having Mark Gatiss as Master was just
yeah, it's...
In all honesty, I have more excitement for that than I had for Avengers Endgame, so...
Yeah, I think there's part of us going, the War Master's already faced the Daleks in Volume 1, maybe we just need a little extra something to build up the hype. But yeah, it's interesting, the stuff we've got going forward. I think we've dropped that idea of... we've not dropped the idea, because there's still exciting stuff in each set, but there's a definite sort of focus more on the character side of things.
Yeah, because the reason why I get the War Master is, because Derek Jacobi is so great in it, and it's actually written so well regardless, so it doesn't need a hook for me. I'm already a fan.
But when you've got people wavering, going, "Ooh, do I want to pre-order that or not?" It's quite nice to have a little extra carrot.
Yeah.
But as you say, Derek can just make anything sing, and we're trying to give him the best scripts possible. So it's just hopefully a meeting of brilliant scripts and brilliant talent.
Yeah. It also helps that each box set it is standalone. You don't need anything else for it. You just need that box set.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we're pursuing going forward, because, the first 4 box sets sort of definitely feel like... I suppose it's only 1 and 4 that connect together.
Yeah.
But I think, anything we do going forward needs to be just... Yeah, you don't want people... getting bogged down in timelines thinking, do I need to listen to this one before I hear this one, or stuff like that. So it's just nice to keep stuff open-ended, really.
I like how some of the other stuff with Derek Jacobi does connect with these box sets as well. With the Time War one, the Gallifrey Time War, sorry, I should have specified, that his episode in that, he did have an ulterior motive, as his master always does, and that's the same ulterior motive that he then continues to go on through the last 3 episodes of Box Set 1. And then there's also his Diary of a Song episode, which you realise after listening to Rage of the Time Lords that he's actually doing the...
Yeah, I don't know if Matt Fisson ever realised I was doing that, but... they'd asked me to write the River Song one, and I thought, if I can find a way to join the dots, why not?
It does add to his master, I think.
Yeah, I still have I've no idea what he was doing in Unit Dominion. Unit Dominion? No, that's not it.
No, that's Alex McQueen.
That's it. I'm getting my masters confused. But Cyber Reality. I've no idea what he was doing there. Maybe one day we'll find out. But equally, you sort of go, you don't need to explain all this stuff. If people can find ways to join the dots, and it feels a bit like you're taking the fun out of it. If you just go, no, this is what must happen. This is how it happens.
I could honestly speak about War Master all day. I love it. So we've spoken a lot about your ranges. We've not actually spoken about your work on the Doctor Who ranges.
No. I'd almost forgotten I'd done anything.
This question, due to recent news, exists now. So, Time Lord Victorious. I'm not expecting you to give an answer, but I'm hopeful. Can you tell us anything more than it exists and you have contributed to it?
It's an idea, I think. It's interesting. I've seen people say oh, this is clearly a reaction to lockdown and people going, what can we do while everyone's locked down? It's a massive, massive project. It's been, I think BBC Studios came up with it, end of last year, if not before, because I know James Goss has been working on it for a long time, and it's a big, epic, intricate story, but also it's been designed to be very accessible. So if people only pick up, say, the Big Finish strand, they'll enjoy the story within those releases, and they won't miss out on anything. Or at least there's nothing in the stories which relies on information elsewhere. And similarly, same with the books. If you only read the books or the comics or something like that, you'd be able to do that quite happily. But if you do overlap, so if you pick up, the audios and the books and the comics and all the other bits that are going on around it, they'll interconnect into something much bigger and sort of more elaborate. So it's. I mean, I'm quite lucky in that I've been shielded to just the Big Finish stuff. Occasionally, James has spoken to me about what's going on in other bits, but I sort of go, whoa, I'll catch up with those when they're out and in my own time. But it's really exciting and big and sort of quite bonkers of the BBC to come up with it. And it shows huge faith in all the licensees that they go, yeah, we can pull this off. So yeah, I mean it's been mad to record because we started just as lockdown hit. But we've fortunately been able to do it. And I don't know when more information is coming out, but I think, I think it's going to be a fun project, and it's not just confined to Big Finish. So yeah.
And if that's all you can say, I might as well move on.
Well, this is it. I'm scared to even say what format things are in, or
I mean. Yeah. If there's nothing you can say at this particular second in time, don't say it, just in case you accidentally leak something before it should come out.
Yeah, no, I mean I've seen artwork for covers and things like that, and it's all very exciting and lovely.
I mean the main artwork just
the iconic thing just blew me away, and there are things that as I say, I wasn't sort of aware of because I've only been focusing on the Big Finish side of things. So yeah, it's fun.
Okay, one more question about it, and it's a yes or no question.
Okay.
No more detail other than yes or no. Is there anything on that iconic poster that you have had direct involvement with? As in, something you have done has appeared on that poster?
Yes.
In some form. Okay. That's all I wanted to know, and now everyone will be screaming at their screens. Just oh my gosh.
I mean, so, in fairness, it's a Doctor Who thing, and so obviously a Doctor's going to be involved.
Yeah.
Or Daleks, or indeed space.
Yeah.
So,
yes, your thing is set in the universe.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think that answer gave anything away.
You've recently done, or been a part of, multiple, Doctor's box sets. For example, 7th Doctor, The New Adventures, Further Adventures of Lucy Miller, and 6th Doctor and Perry. So, how did they come about?
Oh, sorry. I'd accidentally muted my mic there. Always useful. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think I think loosely they were all intended to coincide with 20 years of Doctor Who at Big Finish, or within that sort of year window. So that they basically conceived a box set for each of the Doctors. And I think Peter's got his Wicked Sisters set coming out. But yeah, the Seventh Doctor, Chris and Ros one, I think, people had enjoyed the new adventures, but equally, I think people are wary of adaptations because they've already experienced the story or they know what's going to happen. So they wanted some new content for that.
Yeah.
So David Richardson asked if I'd want to do that, which was very nice. And I loved working with Sylvester and particularly Yasmin and Travis as well. That was a lot of fun. And then Further Adventures of Lucy Miller was something Nick and Alan Barnes were working on. And Nick trusts me as a producer because he'd worked with me on the Prisoner, and he just went, look, I know you can organise stuff, and you're most likely to get this into studio. And he just wanted me around to sort of support him on the days, which was very flattering. So I ended up producing that, and then finally the Sixth Doctor and Perry set, I think, came about because Nev Fountain had said, look, we've never really done a follow-up to the older Perry trilogy. And had contacted David Richardson saying, look, shall we do another monthly range? And David said, how about a box set? So that was more than Nev expected. And so I sort of chatted with Nev about what he wanted to do, and he pitched a few ideas, and in the end we ended up doing the one that closes the box set, and then just getting a few other writers in to tell different adventures with that team. I think it's quite nice. I think this anyway. I think the more stories you can tell, it's quite nice. Rather than tell one big 4-part story. If you got the story that warrants that, brilliant. But sometimes it's just nice to do those hour-long stories because the more you write as well, the more you realise some stories don't warrant 2 discs. But they're still good stories. Yeah. So you go, do you know what? If we only gave that an hour, that would be ample time to explore what we want to explore and do all this. So yeah, it's been nice doing this sort of anthology box sets.
Yeah. So is that you just touched upon about how stories sometimes they don't warrant 2 hours. Is that why some Fifth Doctor stories in the monthly range are composed of two-parters?
Yeah, partly. I think. I mean, I quite like the Peter Davison 2-parters that were on TV. Again, they have a slightly different energy to them, and there's a sort of economy of storytelling to them. And stuff like Warzone and Conversion we did last time, yes, it's two-parters, but they're kind of linked into one big 4-parter. So you just keep the momentum going, really. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
And, with the upcoming Fifth Doctor stories, we've got a 4-part anthology. So again, that's sort of... Big Finish do it anyway, but they're 4 half-hour episodes. That each tell an even smaller, more intimate story that again might feel a bit bloated even if you did them as just an hour. So it's just finding opportunity, finding the right structure for things, really. So yeah, after that anthology we have another double bill, and then we have a 4-part adventure which really explores the TARDIS team dynamic after what they've been through. So, that warrants the 4 episodes because of the plot, but also the character drama. And then another double bill after that. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know the TARDIS team for that. That's not been announced yet. So...
Yes, I hadn't realised that. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we're following up the previous trilogy of adventures. So it's more of the Doctor, Tegan, Nyssa, and Mark.
Yeah. So speaking of the trilogies that have happened, could you explain why those trilogies happened? Both like overall and maybe some tidbits about certain stories that you might find interesting to talk more about.
Oh Lord, I think I've only done a couple with them.
You've only done like the Chameleon trilogy, as like fans are calling it, because it's the one with Chameleon, and what I've decided to call the Mark trilogy, but it's not really the single Mark trilogy anymore.
No.
But
yeah, I mean, David Richardson was stepping back from producing the main range. Blimey, must be 2-3 years ago now. And I think Nick Briggs turned to me and said, "Would you like to take it over?" I sort of said, "Not really." Not because I didn't want to, but I said I think it's possibly better rather than give one person complete control over all 13 slots in the year to divvy it up between different producers so that each Doctor has a different creative force behind it. Again, that's me just thinking variety is better than I imagine if I was trying to do 13 Doctor Who monthly ranges a year, on top of everything else, everything might just get a bit samey. Whereas when you've only got to focus on 3 or 4, you can push the boat out a bit and try and be a bit more, I don't want to say original, but because you're doing less of it, it's easier to try and find more striking things. And also there's a slightly competitive element, whether people admit it or not, where you sort of go, I want these to be the best. But yeah, so that's sort of how that came about. And then weirdly, the first one I was given to produce for Peter was The Heliax Rift, which is a story I wrote for Alan Barnes. Doing the kicking off the unit, the loose unit trilogy. Which, that was an odd script to write because it had to do a lot of setting things up, and at that point the other 2 scripts hadn't really been written, so I didn't really know what it was that needed to be done. So it felt a little odd in terms of it wasn't quite its own thing, but I'm not sure how well that one works. But the Chameleon trilogy again was because there had to be an element of a handover. I was looking after the production side, but David and Alan Barnes, who was script editing, had already got the wheels in motion. So I sort of inherited that trilogy a bit. And I think Alan, knowing he was leaving, just wanted to tick something else off the list and wanted to bring Chameleon back. But I remember being the one to suggest John Coleshaw, having worked with John a few times, and he was brilliant. And
I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's that slightly meta thing of if you're going to get someone who impersonates people and can become anything, why not get a fantastic impressionist? But also, he loves that TARDIS team so much, he just slipped in effortlessly. And that was nice. I
mean, how much leeway did you have on the stories of that trilogy? Like, having Chameleon there, that was definitely not your choice.
All the stories had already been commissioned, so I didn't really have any input into them, really. But Alan was looking after them as usual, so it was sort of babysitting them, and then Ken had already been allocated to direct, so I got to work with him. But creatively it felt like I was just facilitating everyone else, which is fine. It's a different part of the job. But having done that, I knew that with the next set, I definitely wanted to do my own thing. So I knew I wanted to produce and direct that trilogy. I got Guy Adams on board as my script editor, and I love Guy, and I knew he'd bring something different to it as well. I've always loved historicals, but it meant I could go, right, I'm doing a crossover with Cicero, another range I'm really proud of at Big Finish, and
as you should be.
Oh, bless you. But yeah, it meant I could do that and then have a couple of two-parters in the middle, and then I wanted to do a Cyberman story because Peter hadn't had a Cyberman story in about 13 years at Big Finish, I think, at that point, since The Gathering. So it felt like a neat opportunity to explore that. And also the Cicero thing meant we could introduce a new companion, who I sort of envisaged as a male Leela. Someone who's intelligent but not that well educated necessarily.
Yeah.
It just sort of all came together. So that's how that trilogy sort of formed. And I remember actually even Warzone, the idea of a tough mudder that goes wrong, or it's a fun run to death. I already had that idea. I wanted to do something with that, and so just handed it over to the brilliant Chris Chapman, who brought it to life. It was just a lot of nice, fun, bold things, and I wanted to feel like it could have been, a little season. And the double bills meant, across 3 slots, we managed to tell effectively 5 stories.
Yeah.
So we got to know Mark that a little bit better.
I mean, it's a nice idea having like the Doctor meet Cicero and all that.
Yeah, and I didn't know Peter was such a fan of Sam Barnett, but then everyone should be a fan of Sam Barnett. So
yeah, I think it was quite interesting because not only was it the first time in a while Peter had actually had a Cyberman story, but also the first time since Earthshock, spare parts not included, that he actually met the Cybermen. And that was an interesting thing for like that team to have discussions about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a interesting thing because the fallout from Adric obviously never happened on screen. And there have been lots of little stories here and there that have sort of dealt with it in other media. And so I suppose in a way we're probably contradicting things, but I don't know. I think all this stuff has a place. People can pick and choose and everything like that. But certainly when you look at when I came on board producing the monthly range, I didn't want to just recreate an era. I thought, it's more interesting for an audience who are used to 21st century storytelling to approach these characters from a 21st century perspective. And it felt odd. I think it would have felt odd if you're introducing a new companion, particularly a new young male companion, to not have those parallels with Adric and for it not to rake stuff up. Particularly because they never dealt with it on screen. If in the 80s they'd had, a few stories dealing with their grief and everything like that, you wouldn't be feeling like it needed to be done now. But Adric casts a long shadow over that TARDIS team, I think.
Yeah, and especially seeing those Cybermen again. Like, Nyssa in Spare Parts, she knows who the Cybermen are, but seeing the sort of like string of Cybermen that were the reason for your friend's death.
Yeah, it's like seeing an ex at a party or something like that, just across the room where your blood runs cold and you just go, "Oh God, how do I deal with this?" There's a very visceral reaction, I think, to it.
So, as you are dealing with this TARDIS team in the future, I'm particularly wanting to mention Nissa and
Hmm.
Tegan, and how recently, as part of like Doctor Who Lockdown, and how some of the people behind the episodes that are having global rewatches have actually written new stories. In Farewell, Sarah Jane, it is confirmed that yes, they are indeed a couple, and now living in Australia. Are you gonna mention that in the audios? Are you gonna make it more present than people already saw?
I mean, I've completed my current allocation of stories for Peter, so it's not something I really have any control over. I mean, I'd love to try and explain that to Janet and Sarah, just to see their reactions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's an interesting one, isn't it? We had this thing on the last series of Gallifrey, actually, where there was a story where Leela, having been separated from her friends for years, had been looking after a widow and her son, and
And
I
yeah,
sort of reading it just went. I mean, yeah, she could just be protecting them. Would it be more interesting if she had actually struck up a relationship? And I had long conversations with Louise about it, and I think she was worried it might focus on the more lustful side of an affair like that. But I said no. I think it's more about the companionship. You want to portray it as a proper grown up relationship, and she was sort of more comfortable with that. But it's one of those things. I reasoned that on screen,
mm-hmm.
yes, we'd seen her go off with Andred, but
But she had more chemistry with Roden.
yeah, but it's that thing
Yeah,
of
one of those
it's
things.
very easy to pigeonhole people, as
Yeah,
particularly based on the relationships they're in. I have a lot of
yeah,
bisexual friends who, depending on who they're dating at the time, are labelled either gay or straight. And you go,
yeah,
there's probably a lot of invisible bisexuality that we don't reflect on screen because we just naturally assume, based on what relationship status people have at the time, that is their preference.
yeah.
I just thought, would it be interesting to have had a bisexual companion for all these years who we never knew about because we'd only defined them by a single relationship choice? And I just think we're very good on lesbian and gay visibility in drama, but not really bisexuality. So I can't
Yeah.
remember why this came up, but it sort of crossed my mind. And I thought if you're going to do it with anyone, Leela has that sort of mentality that she wouldn't be phased by things like that. She would react on instinct
Yeah.
and personality. I remember doing that and being told that it would maybe compromise too many established. I mean, I can't remember how it's phrased, but I think it was just a case of please, can you not do that because people have an idea in their head and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think for those reasons, having attempted something similar before, it isn't something I'd risk pursuing again.
Mm.
Weirdly, it seems to apply more to. I mean, not that weirdly, but I think it's established TV companions. There was a sort of caution about rather than original characters.
Yeah.
Because I do remember very very positively being told we could make Narvin bisexual if we wanted to. So I went, yeah, it doesn't really work for the same story, but thank you for letting us know. And I'm sure Sean Carlson would love that.
I mean, with established TV characters, it is like because they're established, it is a bit harder.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I didn't push it massively hard because it's not what the story was about. It would have just been an incidental reveal. And actually, listening to it, if you want to believe that, you still can. But Leela felt like one of those characters you could have done it with.
Yeah.
I think weirdly Nyssa and Tegan less so, just because of how their dynamic is together on screen. I don't see a couple there, but
I never saw a couple there, but I think a lot of people were like, well, they share a room,
possibly, yeah.
or if they don't, then they should.
Yeah, I mean, people can believe what they want, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly more characters in Doctor Who that I can see not being straight. Nyssa and Tegan aren't necessarily some of them.
Mm.
What do you think about previous Fifth Doctor monthlies?
In what sense? I mean, I do tend
Like,
to, yeah.
I'm not saying, oh, like, what are your favourite ones? I'm just thinking, what do you generally think about the overall, like, I guess, eras and just through lines, like Fifth Doctor Nyssa for all those years, and then also, like, 5 Perry and RMM and older Nyssa stuff.
Yeah, I think I do sort of miss the days when there weren't the trilogies, and it would genuinely be a different Doctor every month and everything like that. But I think the way people consume drama now has changed. But yeah, I think Peter's had quite a healthy run of TARDIS teams. Yeah, I think the Perry and RMM stuff is interesting because that was all quite early on, or relatively early on. Yeah. And it does sort of stretch credulity slightly in just how many adventures Perry had with the Doctor before Caves of Androzani. But I think if you did that with any of them now, if you looked at precisely how many adventures Nyssa had, and Tegan especially, she's with the Fifth Doctor for all his life, pretty much, before Perry. It's...
I mean, you could argue the gap between Time Flight and Arc of Infinity is bigger than, a year. Because...
Yeah.
You could argue, like, Trachonites can age slower. So therefore, that could explain the whole load of Nyssa stories.
Yeah. I think there's a peculiar trilogy also with the older incarnation of Nyssa, which
I think that was a bunch of trilogies that followed like that era, and it was just the initial one was establishing that.
Yeah, I mean, I always find stuff like that odd because you think that would never have happened on screen. But yeah, it's interesting seeing how the Fifth Doctor era has expanded over the years. Particularly, at the beginning they only really had Sarah and Mark, and subsequently Janet returned to the fold, and so has Matthew. I think actually telling all those extra stories of Adric has really helped strengthen the impact of a story like Earthshock.
Yeah, especially now you've got stories where they don't necessarily always bicker. Because you can see why the Doctor kept Adric around, because they were friends. Would you ever consider, if you were given the chance, that is, because now you've finished your, block of Fifth Doctor stories, if that was extended, would you revisit some of, these other, eras of the Fifth Doctor on Big Finish, like the Season 19 team, or like Perry and RMM, or Olderness?
Oh yeah, I think there's room to tell stories in every sort of little pocket. It's nice to shake things up. I think the only reason I introduced Mark was because I wanted to explore the dynamic of that TARDIS team after Adric a bit more, and also mix things up between Nyssa and Tegan more as well. Which, interestingly, in the context of your previous question, is now even more interesting. But Yeah, I think it's quite nice to be able to pop around between different teams. Particularly, as I say, before the trilogies, it felt like, every other release sort of had that anyway. So
That question was literally because I am desperate for more RMM. I love her. Okay, she's my favorite Fifth Doctor companion. So
yeah, I think
yeah.
Nick sort of said though that there probably won't be any more because of how many stories have now been slotted into that gap with Perry and.
I think it would have been fine if the Kingmaker didn't add that to the timeline. It's a great story. My favorite of Nev Fountains. It's now established because of that they've been traveling for years.
Yeah, it's just very odd the way they open Androzani when you look back at it. But
I still think like the Doctor's like still not really known her for that long. At that point, I still feel like the Caves of Androzani, even with the added context of RMM, I still think it works. Like, the story isn't really about the fact that the Doctor's trying to save Perry. It's an important part of the story, but it doesn't hinge on that. It just... The fact that they intended it to be, the Doctor's saving someone he just met, that is really good. And although that is slightly diminished now, I still feel like Androzani is still a classic regardless of any other context you add to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. We can force a way to make anything work.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's... Yeah, I'd never rule anything out because I think that just limits you. So, who knows? But it's all hypothetical.
Yeah.
So, yeah, whatever. Just have everyone.
Do you know when news about like the monthlies later this year that are coming out of yours? Do you know when the news is gonna?
I don't. It's one of those things. I never, after delivering stuff, I never know what the plan is in terms of announcing or indeed release. I particularly with Torchwood, I get people going, "When's it out?" And I go, "I don't know." I mean, I know that the monthly range is there's a little bit of a break in the next Fifth Doctor trilogy because of thematic stuff that happens in one story, which would feel slightly delicate given the time we're living in. So it's been knocked back in the schedule, but yes, I don't entirely know what the plans are. But I've seen covers and we've got edits and trailers, and it's all been delivered. So I'm sure probably by the time this goes out, there will be more news out there.
Because of that lack of guarantee, I'm sure that if there is covers by the time this is out, or by the time I'm editing this, here they are.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, if there are covers, you probably spotted a new series monster. So, there we go.
Ooh, giving us hints. Now I want to know, but like...
That's the one thing I'm not going to tell you. I'll hint and tease, but I won't give anything away.
I know. Not even after I've stopped recording. I'll sign any document that means I legally have to shut up.
No, I'm too.
One final question about the monthly range in general. Would you say the future of the monthly range is quite limited now, seeing as how Big Finish are promoting more box sets as more of their big business angle, and seeing as how CDs are getting harder and harder to produce in this modern age, and there's becoming less of a demand for it. Just generally, what do you see as the future of that range?
Oh Lord, I mean, again, I can't really comment on the business approach to things because I'm not involved in that side of things. I'm just a lovely freelance creative who makes the drama and delivers it. I mean, I know Big Finish are very attentive to figures, and it's interesting. They've seen a massive shift to downloads over recent years, which the entire music industry has. But they have, there's still a hardcore of CD buyers, but they're becoming fewer and fewer. I think it'll be fascinating to see after this pandemic how many people, have been downloading and suddenly reappraise whether they need the physical product as well. I think generally it's made us think about, do we need to get on a train to a meeting, or can we do stuff remotely? Or, in terms of actors, I know, do I need a hard copy of the script, or can I work from my iPad? A lot of people are able to work off tablets and computer screens and things like that. So I think a lot of people will be going, do I need that extra, bit of plastic and stuff? So I don't know, really. I think, there's still I know, because we're still developing storylines, that we're still doing stuff for the sort of classic Doctors, if you choose to term them that. So that content's never going to stop. But exactly what format things take, I don't know.
I know I'm still going to collect CDs, but my main method of listening is download now. But I do like having the physical CD. I like having it on a shelf. I like reading the booklets or having the choice to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to be like that, particularly with stuff I made. It's still nice having it on the shelf, but there are a few things like Cicero and Blind Terror, and the original series of Dorian, which were download only, and it's still there, it's still accessible, but I don't sort of miss not having it on the shelf, if that makes sense. I'm sure it'd be lovely to turn around and see a box set of Cicero or Blind Terror or something, but equally, there's a lot of other things taking up the room. So
yeah, and plus for stuff with less of a hardcore demand, it makes sense just as a business practice to just have those download only. Although it would have been nice to have a physical CD of Cicero. Although because of the recent sale on the box set, I don't know if I would have gotten it if I saw that. Oh, the download price. Yeah, that's a good price, but the CD price is still the same.
Yeah, it's the cost of CD production anyway, and the warehouse storage and everything. I think people. I think because the TV series is obviously funded by the license fee, and it's basically already paid for before it becomes a Blu-ray. I think people always go, why is audio drama so expensive? And you go, well, it's because it's not paid for by the BBC. It's particularly original ranges. You go, everything costs money. Scripts cost money, composers, sound designers, studio facilities, engineers, the actors, directors. It's still cheaper to make than TV, but it is not cheap to make. Actually, weirdly, a reduction of CD costs would potentially benefit the audience going forward. Because, with inflation and everything else, at some point, like everything, things are going to become more expensive. Particularly with Brexit and the state of the world at the moment. Who knows how it's going to affect things. So, there are boring real-world considerations to take into consideration, which I don't know enough about, but I can understand how they feed into things, I think. Much as I would love to have a CD
Yeah.
copy of everything on my shelf, I can understand why it might not always be possible.
Yeah. As do I.
Yeah, I think if it's a choice between making it for download only or not being able to make it at all because you insist on the CD, I think being able to produce it is probably the better option.
That is, yeah. Yeah. So speaking of the non-Doctor Who stuff you do, what are you most proud of in terms of making Dorian Gray? Like, spoiler-free as possible for those who haven't heard it.
I think I'm just proud I was allowed to make it because it's something I'd championed for a long while. I think it's, if you wanted me to single anything out, it would probably be the Heart That Lives Alone in the first series, just because it was the first script written. It was the script I wrote to sort of give people a flavour of what the range could be, and also it's the one that people seem to respond most strongly to at the time. I think that's the one that people connected with, and that's always been quite nice. Yeah, and I'm just proud of the fact we got a good, for something untested at Big Finish, which got, it managed to establish its own fan base. Very quickly, the sales figures were good. If Big Finish had their way, we'd still be making it. It was only because Alex and I went, should we, call it a day, go out on a high, and that's why we ended it where we did, because we just felt we'd done what we could in that period. And then, we brought it back for the Lost Confessions and stuff, and the little isolation thing and things like that. So, it's nice to revisit. I should probably re-listen to it, really. I'd probably enjoy it. But
buy some of the series as well, because I very much enjoyed Isolation. What draws you to Dorian Gray as a character?
I think... we're coming up to about 8 years now since Big Finish started it. I actually found a document the other month that was... I'd originally started developing it around 2009, 2010, so it's been with me a decade. So I'd have been, about 25 then, I think. And I think at that point, I've always looked a lot younger than I am, and I used to get slightly frustrated of people not quite taking me seriously because they thought I was, younger than my years. I don't think that's ever really left me. But, yeah, I think just the idea of someone who's lived that long but has the characteristics of a much younger person is fascinating. And also the amorality of him. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He's just deeply flawed. I think flaws are what make us interesting. And we all have that. And, being able to be someone selfish and just, the fact there are no consequences to his lifestyle means he takes risks, he takes chances, he does a lot of questionable stuff because there's nothing to worry him. So it just pitches him slightly differently from any other lead character, I think.
So, are there plans to have any more... Well, not any more Dorian Gray, but any more of some of the other stuff, like Blind Terror or Cicero?
No plans for any more Cicero or Blind Terror.
It's a shame. I really want a series 2 of Cicero after...
I'd love to do more.
And I would pay full price for it as well.
I mean,
just
weirdly, Alex and I are talking about more Dorian, which we'd always said we never would do. And we stuck by that for a while, and then the pandemic hit, and we went, let's just do a little one-off. And in the way things always happen, suddenly just thought, the world has changed so much just in the last 5 years since we stopped making it. And pitching him into this kind of world we're in now could be interesting in a way, that 2015 wasn't, So I don't know. We're discussing stuff, and Jason's said yes to it at Big Finish, so it's going to take a while. But yeah, we're exploring the idea of more.
Yeah, because Dorian does sound like the sort of character you could bring back whenever you want, and when there's a time and a place. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a firm believer in. I genuinely admire people who can write for a living and do anything and just turn their focus to it. I've only ever been able to write stuff if I've gone, this is a story I want to tell. I think that's sort of why we parked Dorian when we did, because we felt we'd done everything we could at that point. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what format it takes and how we approach it again.
So there's also more Dracula box sets coming. How was it to sink your teeth back in it? It was a good written thing, and I messed it up. So how was it to sink your teeth back into Dracula again? There we go, I said it.
It was a lot of fun. It wasn't something I was ever expecting. We did a few adaptations. We did Picture of Dorian Gray, obviously, and then Frankenstein with Arthur Darvill, and then Dracula with Mark Gatiss, and it was weird. I was working on Sherlock, the last series of Sherlock, and just happened to bump into Mark by the trailers, and he invited me into his Renata and said, just one of the first things he said was, when are we going to do more Dracula? I think I went, are you serious? And he went, yeah. So I went, fine. And I emailed Big Finish, and they said, yeah, absolutely. If he wants to do more, let's do more. So we commissioned Jonathan Barnes to write them. This would have been back in, when were we shooting? I think the summer of 2016. So, is that right? Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago. So Jonathan wrote those scripts probably in 2017, and they've been sat waiting until we could get Mark into a studio, which happened to be last September. So yeah, they were sat around for a couple of years, which is really interesting when you hear them, and some of the stuff that feels quite relevant to the age we're in now. But yeah, it was nice to finally record it, because we'd waited so long to get it back in. Yeah, but I love horror, and Jonathan's really great at creating those worlds and the atmosphere and just getting the language of it right. It feels like a continuation of Stoker, or rather a prequel to Stoker's work. And I've actually just been listening to edits of Dracula's War in this last week, and it's very different again from what's come before it. So hopefully, yeah, they'll form a nice little trilogy.
This next question was so good, but we've already touched on it. With the whole, speaking of vampires, with Dark Shadows, Dracula, Dorian Gray, and to an extent Torchwood with Captain Jack, you seem to have a theme of ageless immortal beings in your work. What do you think is a good storytelling advantage to have that moral dichotomy?
I think it ties into anything really. We sort of, as audience members, we like to fantasize, and we in a way we like to be challenged as well. So having these characters who come from a completely different perspective to us, almost allow us to unleash our imagination in a different way. vampirism is just... It taps into something we probably wouldn't want to admit about ourselves, which is, we all really just want to... if we could, we'd all want to live forever. I mean, it'd be utterly impractical. And, we'd probably get bored very, very quickly. But there's something deep-rooted in all of us, that need to survive, that makes it weirdly both tempting and terrifying. So I think vampire, and again, the sort of immortal characters will have a similar thing of they're cursed in having that. So I think that's where it comes into play. And of course, if you're immortal or ageless, you've got less to lose. So it means they're capable of slightly more dynamic or corrupt things.
So, one last question before the shorter questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any epics you'd like to adapt for Big Finish? Or just anything in general you'd want to adapt? Not necessarily like epics. Any.
I've always wanted to do some of the Greek tragedies on audio. Partly because that's what I studied as a kid. But, I mean, they're great stories. And also, because of the limitations of theatre at the time, they're basically written like audio dramas anyway. People come onto stage and just describe the massive battles that are happening off stage. I mean, you wouldn't do it quite like that, but actually there's a lot of language and beautiful descriptions of events that would just suit the audio medium so well. And actually, because they didn't have so many actors, they'd only have 3 actors playing all the parts, it's almost made for people doubling up in a sound studio. So I'd love to have a go at that. It's something I've pitched a few times, but it's never been picked up on. But maybe one day.
I'd love that, honestly.
I think it'd be great. Do something like Oedipus or Medea or even Philoctetes or there's loads of stuff you could do.
Yeah. I think the ones that would probably get most people's attention are like the famous Homeric epics.
Yeah, but it's weird that stuff like the Odyssey and the Iliad have sort of been done a lot more than the actual tragedies themselves. So
I think the tragedies would be much more interesting creatively, certainly. Also, the only real piece of Greek text I've actually studied was the Iliad, and I'm just like, no. It's the case where the spin-off is better than the original. With the Odyssey.
No, the Odyssey is the one that's sort of stuck in my head.
Yeah. So, Twitter questions.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Angelides asks, do you have any nice recipes for tumbleweed?
No, funnily enough,
You
but
probably saw your tweet.
Oh, bless Peter. I love Peter to bits. But he does just tell dad jokes the whole time.
Which is this tweet, essentially. At Carl Will Numbers, as a sound producer, he's talking about the pick I used. He's asking a bit of a slightly mean question. Why don't you have decent wireless earphones in the pick? I don't like wireless earphones myself.
I do actually have nice wireless earphones, but
I just took the pick off TARDIS.
I think it's probably something where I think if it's a photo where I was in London,
it might be.
I think sometimes if I'm travelling to London to record, I've forgotten to pack my AirPods, so I just end up using a spare pair of good old fashioned wired headphones. But I've got better now at not forgetting my charger or things for that. So
yeah. Just an explanation for Carl. Ooh, this is a good question. If you had a time machine of your own and could record an audio with any of the Doctor Who actors who are no longer with us, who would you pick and why?
Liz Sladen, I think, because Well, she was just so marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
And got to work with her on Sarah Jane, and in fact, she even recorded a Sarah Jane audiobook I wrote, and was just so attentive and detailed and just lovely as a person. And I just think she'd be give a brilliant performance, but also just be fantastic to just work with.
Yeah. Ooh, I was watching the documentary yesterday.
I've not got my Blu-ray yet.
Be prepared.
If I
for
still
tears.
haven't got my Blu-ray by the time this gets released,
Yeah.
I will be furious.
I'm sure you will get your Blu-ray, Scott. I'm sure you will. I'm just telling you, it's a great documentary. But then again, everyone on Twitter has been saying it's a great documentary.
I think it's a Chris Chapman again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good.
He's good at documentaries. Mark of the Rennie asks, got a lovely sort of names. Having written a classic Doctor New monster, what new Doctor classic monster would you like to write if you were given an opportunity?
Oh, what classic monster?
For a new Doctor, as well.
For a new Doctor.
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
I love Tennant. I mean, I love Eccleston and Matt, and I do love them all. But I'd be tempted for Tennant because he's the one I worked with most on the TV series, and just feel more familiar with his era. But in terms of monsters, is it really weird? I want to say Tetraps, just because as a kid, I always felt they were really interesting and never explored enough. And I just love to do. I think that'd be bizarre, but do a Tetrap story.
They're so unexplored, I can't remember which ones they were.
They're the sort of four-eyed bat creatures in Time in the Rani.
Oh yeah. I think that could work. Yeah.
I think that, and actually they've got quite a distinctive way of speaking as well.
Yeah.
So you could, they're quite lumbery and yes, I suddenly want to do a Tetrap thing.
Yeah. I think it's important not just to remember the monsters from stories that are absolutely adored, but also give another chance for monsters that could be explored more but are trapped in a story people don't particularly like.
Yeah, I mean, the Tetraps were wasted.
Yeah.
They were a brilliant design as well. But yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm the one advocating for monster rights in, like, bad story monster rights, because I am a huge Naimon fan. I don't like the Horns of Naimon, but I'm a huge Naimon fan and kind of wish they returned. Take notes. But yeah, Tetraps, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm amazed they've not already been done, actually. Maybe they will be. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
I'm surprised that, like, they're one of the few things Big Finish haven't done that aren't owned by Douglas Adams.
yeah, and they look good.
Yeah. At Welsh Flirting asks, what was your greatest achievement with Big Finish and what are you planning to do next?
My greatest achievement was probably personal achievement, getting Dorian made. Professional achievement, based on people's reaction, I think people are still astounded I managed to get Michael Palin for Torchwood. But yeah, they'd be the two go-tos, I reckon.
Okay. Ooh. At Jones Torchwood asks, is there any future Torchwood releases that you're excited about?
Yes. That's all I think I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at my board of releases, and I mean, there's so much not announced, and so much we've not been able to finish recording at the moment because of the state of the world. But I look forward to them all because they're all such good fun, and the cast are all so great. But I think Torchwood Soho's just a hoot. yeah, that's a romp. And, it's 3 discs of Norton Folgate and Sergeant Andy. So, yeah, let's say that for now.
So at Yanto numbers, do you ever get recognised in public by fans? If so, do the interactions usually go well? And how would you like a fan to react if they saw you in public?
No, I mean, I work in audio and I'm not visual, and so no, I've never been recognised. Or have I? I mean, I suppose there have been occasional events, screenings of things where people recognise me, but that's sort of in a context. I've never been recognised on the street or anything like that. Although I did go to a Torchwood convention recently where someone asked me if I live in the area I live in, because they also live in Cardiff, and they said, "Oh yeah, I've spotted you walking down a certain road every so often, but you have your headphones in." And I thought it'd be a bit weird to go over and say hello. I don't mind people coming in saying hello as long as they're not aggressive. And I don't think most people are going to be aggressive if they're saying hello to you. So yeah, I mean, it's just quite nice to have a distraction. My worst thing is because I normally listen to edits of things or podcasts, when I'm walking around, I do tend to just drift off into my own little world. And, I'm obviously mindful of people around me and cars and things, but I'm not fully engaged if someone comes towards me. I've walked past, good friends in the street because I've just been focused on getting where I need to be. So, yeah, I'm quite bad at noticing people.
At Justin_B Quinnick, if I'm pronouncing any of these wrong, everyone will hate me, but is there any particular character you would like to have appear in class as Ace did in Volume 2? If you could pick someone completely outlandish, he phrased it as, or if you could pick someone completely outlandish, who would it be? But it could just be the same answer.
I think if I'd been able to, I did think about it, but there was an opportunity in the most recent sets for anything worthwhile. But I did always think if we had Charles, it'd be nice to do a little cameo from Whoniversals, just because he's on the board of governors.
Yeah.
I think it is, Ian Chesterton. That could have been fun.
Yeah, and having Ian in a more, explicitly mature script.
I mean, he wouldn't have been massively featured. It would have just been a nice little nod, I think, because he's in his 90s now, and particularly with the energy of the class cast, I think it would have been an exhausting demand. But yeah, that it does. I do sometimes think it would be nice to just do that as a little cameo somewhere.
Yeah. Ooh, someone's asked a long-winged question. At Hey Jacqueline asks, or has just tweeted this. I noticed in that the Torchwood novel Twilight Streets was dedicated to Scott Handcock, and I've always figured it was you. Mm-hmm. How did that come about, and what has your journey with Torchwood been from the beginning now to the work that you do at Big Finish? I mean, you've already touched on how your Torchwood on Big Finish has come about, so...
Yeah, I think the novel came about because, I've been good friends with Gary Russell for years. As I say, he's the one who got me the job in Cardiff, and I can't remember what was going on when he was writing that book, but I think there may have been a few references he wanted my advice on, or something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, we're good mates, and we're living in Cardiff, so I chat to him a lot about stuff as he was working on it. So I think, yeah, bless him, he just decided to dedicate that one to me, which is very sweet. In terms of my Torchwood journey, actually, before the audios came along, when I started working on Doctor Who Confidential, we were also doing Torchwood Declassified. So I actually spent, a fair bit of time working on the behind the scenes of Torchwood while it was being filmed, as well as Doctor Who. So that was nice. getting to wander around the hub when it was still there. Yeah.
One person has asked 3 questions. 2 of them are very similar and have already been touched upon. But this last one, I believe I already know the answer to this, but we might as well just talk about it just for clarity. At Yanto Williams _1 asks, any plans to use Miracle Day characters for any of the future audios?
No plans, but I know James Goss looked into it. I don't know what the outcome was, but I know it's not something. I think what I'm trying to say is I know a lot of people go, why don't you do this? And I think it's safe to say that if it's occurred to other people, it's occurred to us as well. So it will have been looked into, but it's just not been possible. But I mean, that's not to say something might not be possible in future, because rights change and they lapse and everything like that. So even though it's not been possible at the moment, maybe in the future. I mean, that sounds like I'm saying it's going to happen. I don't know, but rest assured, we are aware of the entire world of Torchwood, and if we were able to have done that, we would have.
At Daniel Ramsden FL asks, for Big Finish, you work on so many different properties. How do you manage to make sure they're all distinct and unique enough?
I think very often by just employing a diverse range of writers where you can, people who have the right voice for the right characters and tone, but also, I don't know, people are wonderfully adaptable, in the same way you can cast actors to do different parts. Writers can tackle different kinds of scripts, and as a director, I love being able to do something like comedy for one project and then something a bit darker and more character driven stuff in one, more action packed. So it's just judging things as and when they come in, really. Yeah.
The same user replied to their own comment asking, also, favourite writing snack?
Oh, I don't tend to snack when I'm writing. Weirdly. Yeah, sorry.
At Andrew Store 5 asks, can I have my pen back?
I don't remember the pen, so probably not.
At JK Reviews ADT asks, if you could work on any Big Finish range you're not currently involved with, what would it be?
Well, that's a good question. Ooh. Probably the Omega Factor. But I know that's sort of been stalled for the moment, but yeah.
John also asks, which show not currently licensed by Big Finish would you like to get a crack at?
I've just been introduced to Fringe, and I'm only a couple of episodes into about 5 or 6 episodes into the first series, but it's really good, and I was thinking this would be brilliant on audio. So at the moment, I'd say that.
At Josh Sebastia asks 3 questions. So, Scott, what is your favourite TARDIS interior?
I think I'm going to say the Eccleston Tennant interior.
Yeah.
Just because I have a lot of memories of that set. So yeah, it sort of holds a special place in my heart.
Is there anyone specific that you'd love to see play the Doctor or a future companion?
Weirdly, again, coming back to Robert Glenister, I think would have always been a really interesting Doctor. And actually, Richard Ayoade, I think, would have been great as well. Companions is harder to say because it depends entirely on the character. of the companion who you'd cast. I think too much in terms of casting, but yeah, the Doctor's sort of more constant. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever broken any bones?
No.
Neither have I, actually.
Mine or someone else's?
Ooh, that's... Ooh.
In either case, it's a no, but it's an interesting distinction to query.
Exactly. Is there an avenue in the Doctor Who universe Big Finish is yet to do which you'd love to get your hands on, if you could?
I mean, there are a few little things I'm developing that have yet to happen. I'm trying to think of a more generic. Is there an avenue you'd like to? That's a really interesting question. Because it sort of implies, yeah, it's more than just characters, then, isn't it? It feels like.
I mean, it can be, I think, because like, if I was asked this question, I would just if I was asked by the educator TL, that's who asked this question. I would personally say the Series 10 TARDIS team, or Nine Rose and Jack, but those would have to those would need.
Yeah, that sort of feels like just doing. Yeah, that just feels like run of the mill.
It does
business as usual rather than
but it's still something that Big Finish haven't done yet. Tapping into Lowe's dynamics.
Yeah,
I
true.
would say. But if you've got anything more complex than that, or mentioning a TARDIS team that I've not said, who you wouldn't have done yet if you are... I'm overcomplicating this.
I mean, this is the thing. There are things that I sort of would naturally want to say, but I'm sort of developing them.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that's been mentioned fleetingly that I've always gone, oh, that could be fun. Yeah, I'm struggling a bit. There's just so much choice.
Yeah.
Do you know, one thing I did pitch ages ago was doing something with Canton Everett, Delaware.
That?
Yeah. I think I even tentatively called it the Delaware Dossier. And just doing a sort of series of adventures in America of him investigating, strange occurrences. And, I sort of know Mark from when he shot the show and weirdly a few supernatural conventions and things. And so I know he really enjoyed the character. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that it's not your typical Doctor Who related fare, but it could be interesting.
Yeah. That sounds... Yeah, that sounds interesting, certainly.
Yeah, but I don't know if there'd be the audience for it. But
yeah, that's the main concern, because people are like a bit picky when it comes to spin-offs. They're like, oh, this is a spin-off too far. Like, people said that with like the Graceless Twins, and people... I was definitely around when, like, listening in when people were speaking about like Lady Christina, and I'm just like, I think Big Finish are allowed to make what they want to make.
Or the Cult of Skaro.
Ooh! I'm surprised there's not been something like that yet, even in the Time War things.
That feels like there's lore there. There's a squad of Daleks designed to think like the enemy. Yeah, there's probably something in that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah,
At Cressel Wright asks a question that I don't know if you have any jurisdiction over. Is there any chance of more stories featuring the Forge?
I think they must have got their Scots confused, because that's Cav Scott and Mark Wright who did
they're
that.
the ones.
I've never done anything related to the Forge. So
would you ever want to? That's a question from me.
Yeah, I know. I say that confidently because I know I once spoke to Cav about whether we could do something with Nimrod, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was for. That's really annoying now. I think, or maybe, do you know? I think maybe I'm going mad. I think I once flirted with the idea of. Oh, it's coming back to me now. Yeah, I once asked Cav if we could do Dorian Gray in the Forge.
Ooh, that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting Torchwood in the Forge, but
yeah, and I think Cav said no, or didn't think it was a good idea, and so he developed another idea. So this would have been for about series 3 of Dorian, and instead I went, okay, well, I think the idea I wanted to do was someone like Nimrod stalking Dorian and investigating him almost like, a man who can die and almost killing him over and over again. So because we couldn't do that with the Forge, I basically gave that idea to Roy Gill, and he then developed the idea of a serial killer discovering Dorian and basically finding a man he could kill over and over again and get away with it because there'd never be a victim. So I liked the idea of the Forge, and did try to persuade Cav and Mark to bring it back at one point, but it never went anywhere.
That's an interesting exclusive right there.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. And the last question by @WhoPottervian. Right. So you wake up and find that real life has merged with the world of Doctor Who spin-off Class. Who do you contact first to help put things right? Ram, April, Charlie, Tanya, Mateus, or Miss Quill?
I mean, yeah, I think it'd have to be Quill.
Like, she's the one you trust the least, but she'd get things done.
Yeah, she's the one who's going to understand it most.
Yeah.
And therefore, be able to resolve it.
Yeah.
And also, she just wants a quiet life, really. So if there was something odd going on, she just wants it done and dusted.
And if you gave no reason for her to kill you, you're fine. Which is a bit of a harder thing to achieve, but...
Well, in fairness, she can't really kill because she's restricted from doing so. So,
if she wasn't, that's when you start worrying.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be Quill.
Yeah.
Because none of the others really would be able to get their head around it. I mean, Tanya might, but equally that would be theoretical.
Charlie could.
Charlie could, but he's a bit too... I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the character, but he is quite self-interested. Not self-interested, but yeah, he's less... The regal part of him, I think, would he loses focus quite easily.
Yeah.
He manages to make stuff more about him because that's how he's grown up.
And also, I feel like he can grasp what's happening, but Quill would understand it better because, I don't know, Charlie naturally gets less exposure because, again, that's... From what I remember of the show, because it's been a while since I've seen the show, he seemed quite...
He gets more easily flustered.
Yeah. So, to wrap things up, is there anything you'd like to promote before finishing off?
No, not really. I feel like we've spoken about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, bless you for asking me to natter. It's been a lovely way to spend a morning. I just feel bad having gone on quite so long.
Don't worry.
But
I'll be fine. I can split everything up in editing and just try.
You'll trim it down. It'll all be groovy. But yeah, I'd just like to say, thank you to the people for listening, not just to me ramble on, but to Big Finish Output. And, hopefully we'll be announcing lots more new exciting things over the coming months. And, there'll be plenty of opportunities to dip into existing stuff as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully I'll finally find out what that monster is you're bringing back for that Fifth Doctor monthly. Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah. Thank you for agreeing to chat with me.
No, thank you for asking.
I hope you, Tim, friends, family, and everyone at Big Finish are safe and well during this this period of time, this period of history.
Yes.
And I hope that, well, I'm pretty sure that every Big Finish fan is behind you all and wishing you the best during these times.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
I know I certainly am, and thank you again. And thanks everyone for listening. Goodbye, everyone.